Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Hiruzen's teach Naruto the secrets of his mother's clan part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Snow fell softly over the village hidden in the leaves. The light of the setting sun was hidden behind bleak gray clouds, casting a bleak pall to the streets below. An overly large backpack, overstuffed to the point of being comical and with a sheathed sword hanging from its side, weaved through the snow-covered roads. Hidden underneath this bulging monstrosity, a man trudged through the slush of the streets, black hair covering his eyes, worn traveler clothes stained with the dust of the road, and his tattered cloak covered by the newly fallen snow. Every now and then the traveler would stop and angle his head as if listening to something only he could hear. Eventually he stopped. Looking around, he found himself in a small and dirty alleyway. Something had drawn him here, a voice in the emptiness, but now it was gone, swallowed by the all-encompassing silence. Looking around, he realized he had no idea where he was. Damn it. Where did it go? He shouted. A sound to his left drew his attention. A small boy, maybe 3 or 4 years old, huddled up against the side of some nameless building. Bright, spiky yellow hair was the only thing he could make out, as his head was downcast. The boy's body was curled in on itself, whether to hide or for warmth he didn't know, but that wasn't what truly caught the man's attention. That would be the state of the clothes the kid was wearing, and he was using the term clothing quite liberally and with no protection from the elements save a ragged blanket. Looking at the boy gave him the oddest feeling that there was more to the child than met the eye, so he peered deeper. Past the outer shell of the body, past the flame of the youth's chakra, deeper and deeper still. That's when he felt it. The malevolence, the hatred, the anger waiting to be unleashed upon the world and destroy all in its path. Its sheer overwhelming presence caused him to stagger as if struck by a physical blow. Now he knew why he was drawn to this place, like a moth to the flame. And that was not a reassuring metaphor to use in this situation, he thought to himself. Walk away, turn around and leave, that's all I have to do. He was about to do just that when he looked back at the child one more time. He was able to peer even deeper than before, past even the overwhelming malice, and he saw the soul of a lonely 4-year-old boy, just hoping to stay warm for the night. He hesitated, arguing with himself until he seemed to deflate and his shoulders slump. The man sighed, knowing his path had been set since the moment he heard the kid. Naruto had been kicked out of the orphanage, again. He had managed to take his blanket, so there's that. He was currently huddled in an old alley, mostly just to avoid the crowds and their hate-filled glares and barely concealed whispers, calling him a monster or demon. Why do they all hate me? I only put toothpaste in the cookies once, and maybe I put itching powder in the orphanage owner's wig, but no one could prove that. So why? The child thought to himself. The reason he had been kicked out this time was because prospective parents were visiting the orphanage today, and I don't want them to be scared away by you, you little monster, had been the orphanage owner's excuse. As if the owner really needed an excuse, he just so happened to have one this time. What if they didn't hate me and had wanted to adopt me? This thought had been continuously running through his mind all night. Followed quickly by the realization that no one would want to adopt the hateful demon. These warring thoughts filled Naruto with hope, only for said hope to be ruthlessly carved out, leaving him feeling emptier than before. He was brought out of his constantly cycling thoughts by the sound of someone walking down the alley. Naruto curled deeper into himself, hoping that whoever it was wouldn't yell or throw something at him. He liked his chances since the man didn't smell like that stuff some of the adults drank before trying to chase him. Damn it. Where did it go? The stranger yelled out. Naruto flinched at the harsh tone in the man's voice, causing the piece of cardboard he was sitting on to scrape across the ground. Please don't see me, please don't see me, please don't see me. Naruto was close to hysterics, thinking that the man was looking for him. All he could do was curl in on himself closer and hope he wasn't seen. He almost screamed when he felt something heavy land next to him. The traveler plopped down right next to the mystery boy after shrugging his overworked backpack off his shoulders. The kid started like he had been struck by lightning, turning his head to look at the new arrival. Giving the man his first look at the child's face, his eyes were a nice shade of cerulean, and he had 3 odd whisker marks along each of his cheeks, which was twisted with terror and trepidation. The kid looked like he was about to scream and bolt. Panicking, the traveler started rummaging through his various pockets, trying to find something to pacify the child. He felt the crinkle of plastic in one of his pockets and, realizing that sacrifices would have to be made in order to walk this path, pulled out a small bag and offered it to the child. Want a gummy bear? What? Stuttered out the surprised boy. A gummy bear. You know, a piece of candy. The stranger replied while waving the small bag in front of Naruto's face. Naruto, not being used to kindness, was suspicious of the man and shook his head. Suit yourself then, more for me, the stranger said while popping a few of the delicious gems into his mouth. For the land of fire your winters sure can be uncomfortable. The man continued picking out all the green gummy bears in his bag, nothing compared to the land of snow mind you, but the name really misleads people. You'd think that the land of fire would be hot. Naruto continued to stare at this stranger who was talking to him and not down to him, or calling him a monster. Geez, you look colder than me, here I think I have something that can help. This was accompanied by the stranger rifling through his pack. Eventually he pulled out a horrendously bright orange wool blanket he had been given as a gift, which meant he couldn't just throw it away, and he didn't hate anyone enough to re-gift it to them. Luckily he now could make use of the ugly thing. Here, use this, it should keep you warm, he said as he tossed it over the kid's head. The child struggled trying to get his head out of the tangled up fabric. When he finally did, he was greeted by an outstretched hand and the voice of the man who had given him the blanket. "Ziren Adair, traveling merchant, at your service." Tentatively Naruto reached out and shook the now identified Ziren's hand before retreating back and wrapping the warm orange blanket around him. Generally it's considered good manners to introduce yourself after someone else does the same, Ziren chided the child gently. "And Naruto, you Uzumaki," Naruto stuttered out. "Well Naruto, are you sure you don't want a gummy bear? They're tiny but full of fruit juicy goodness," Ziren asked while offering the plastic bag he was holding one more time. This time Naruto reached into the bag and pulled out a sizable handful, he then tried to stuff as many as he could into his mouth at once. "No, no, no, you only put a few of them in your mouth at a time, otherwise you can't taste them." "Kids," Ziren sighed in exasperation. "Hey whoa," Naruto said around a mouthful of candy. "Swallow, then speak," Ziren said while bopping Naruto on the head. After a bit of chewing Naruto managed to swallow the gummy bears in his mouth. "Thank you. So what's a kid like you doing out here in the middle of the snow?" Ziren asked. "They kicked me out of the orphanage," Naruto replied. "Well, that seems uncalled for. You hungry?" "I'm pretty sure I have something in here more substantial than candy," Ziren said as he rifled through his pack. "I'm fine with candy," Naruto replied while stuffing the rest of the gummy bears into his mouth. The merchant turned back around and bopped Naruto on the head again. "No. You are a growing boy and need a balanced diet." Naruto just looked at him dubiously. Ignoring Naruto, Ziren started to rifle through the various pockets on his pack again. "Besides, I'm out of gummy bears. Let's see, trail cheese, no that's too hard. Trail bread, no that's even harder. Ate all the jerky earlier. Let's check my produce pocket, wow I need to clean this out more often. Well, trail food it is." Ziren handed a piece of hard cheese and an even harder piece of bread to Naruto. "How does this balance with a diet?" Naruto asked in the way only children can. "It's just a turn of phrase, pay it no mind," Ziren replied waving Naruto off. "How does a phrase turn?" "Just eat the food." Naruto wanted to ask more questions but was too hungry to ignore the food in front of him. It tasted terrible and was tough as nails but was seasoned with the greatest of all spices, hunger, and Naruto ate all of it. Chewing through the trail food tuckered Naruto out and afterward his head began nodding from fatigue. Eventually Naruto snuggled up to the nice merchant and fell asleep. Naruto awoke to something unusual, warmth. Rubbing the sleep out of his eyes, Naruto found that he was curled up against someone. That someone being Ziren, the nice man who had given him some food, candy, and a nice blanket the night before. "Finally awake I see. You are quite the heavy sleeper, it's almost lunchtime," Ziren said while putting away the ledger he was working on. Naruto was confused. Nobody, aside from the friendly grandpa with the cool hat, was ever nice to him. "What's more confusing is that you think that I need a reason to be nice to a kid," Ziren answered Naruto, who hadn't realized he had vocalized his thoughts. "Now let's go get some food, you ate the last of the stuff I had on me, but first," Ziren said as he stood up and made a cross with his fingers. "Shadow clone jutsu," he said, and with a poof of smoke, two exact copies of himself came into existence. One of them rifled through the original's pack before pulling out a folder filled with papers. The other grabbed the pack and slung it onto his back. With a wave the two clones left the alley separately. "Are you a ninja?" Naruto yelled after he snapped out of his starstruck state. "No, but I can use jutsu like one, kid," Ziren replied while striking a heroic pose and looking off into the horizon. "Can you teach me how to do that?" Naruto basically shouted as he jumped to his feet. "It's a pretty hard jutsu to perform, I don't think you're ready for it." Ziren answered him while ruffling Naruto's hair. "Well, I'm going to be the best ninja ever," Naruto replied defiantly. "I don't doubt it, kid, now let's go get some food, I'm hungry." With that Naruto happily skipped after Ziren, who had attained hero worship levels in his eyes. Ziren whistled as he walked down the street looking for what he needed. Naruto was sticking to him like a shadow. Ziren's mood had started out pretty good, Naruto had kept him in one place long enough to get some actual work done. The sun was shining and he had a companion to spend the day with, a good start. His mood, however, deteriorated quite quickly. Not because he was hungry, no, he had been hungrier. His deteriorating mood was due to the glares and not even concealed whispers being directed not at him, but the 4-year-old kid holding onto his cloak. Looking down he noticed Naruto's downcast expression. Unfortunately Naruto was perceptive for a 4-year-old poor kid. Their first stop wasn't somewhere to get food but a clothing store. "You need some new clothes," Ziren answered Naruto's questioning stare while ushering him into the store. The man working turned to Ziren smiling, but that smile turned into a grimace when he saw Naruto hiding behind Ziren's legs. "I'm sorry sir, but you'll have to leave," the employee said with a sneer. "And why is that, may I ask?" Ziren asked in a biting tone, having lost his previous good cheer. "We don't serve that here," the employee said, gesturing to Naruto. "Now leave before I call security." Taking the hint, Ziren led an almost crying Naruto out of the store. "What a jerk," he said just loud enough for the unhelpful store associate to hear. Learning from the past, Ziren had Naruto hide in an alley while he went into another store and bought some children's clothing. Having nowhere else to change, Naruto hid behind a dumpster and changed quickly. It was still cold outside after all, into a pair of jeans and a green shirt with some cartoon character on the front that Naruto didn't know. "Now let's find some food, shall we?" Ziren said, trying to cheer Naruto back up. "We don't serve his kind here. It's not allowed where normal people eat. Get that thing out of here. No monsters allowed. Away with you, demon." Needless to say, Ziren's mood had gone from bad to worse quite quickly, getting yelled at and kicked out of various eating establishments will do that to a guy. It was even worse for Naruto, who had been reduced to quiet tears multiple times. It was late afternoon at this point and both Ziren and Naruto were hungry. Thankfully the crowds in the street were giving them a wide berth, not because of Naruto, but because Ziren was unintentionally releasing killer intent at the village as a whole. He was pulled out of his murderous thoughts, quite literally, by Naruto, who was holding onto his traveling cloak and had stopped and was staring at a ramen stand named Ichiraku. The heavenly aroma wafting from the stall had both of their stomachs rumbling. "Well, one more try won't hurt more than the rest," Ziren thought to himself as he ushered Naruto into the stand. Gucci was a large man, both in height and width, and had spent quite a bit of his life running his ramen stand with his daughter Am. He was born and raised in Konoha. Living in a hidden village all your life will give one immunity to both the weird and against being bullied by shinobi. Some of these ninja thought that by releasing killer intent they could get him to lower their bill or forget about it entirely, but Tucci was no pushover and never backed down. That's why when someone came into his stand releasing some major killing intent, he turned towards them immediately saying, "Hey, no killer intent in my restaurant. Knock it off or take it outside. If I knock it off, will you serve us?" The man who had just entered asked, glaring daggers at the chef. Tucci wondered at the question. Why wouldn't he serve the man? That's when he noticed the child cowering behind the man's legs. The first thing he noticed was the eye-bleeding orange blanket wrapped around him. The second thing he noticed was the blonde hair, blue eyes, and whisker marks on his cheeks. That's when he realized it was the demon child. He was about to send the two of them packing with some choice words when he took a closer at the kid. Said boy was staring at a bowl of ramen, drool pouring generously from his mouth. That wasn't what really caught his attention though, that would be how malnourished he looked. From what Tucci could see, the kid was thin, very thin, as though he hadn't had a decent meal in a long time, and that broke the kindly old man's heart. He was after all about to deny a 4-year-old kid a place to eat. Feeling ashamed of himself, he looked away saying, "You two can eat here." Immediately Ziren dropped his killing intent. "Thank goodness I'm starving." Ziren lifted Naruto up onto one of the stools and then took one for himself. Around this time some of the customers, seeing that the demon child would be eating here, left in disgust, but not before throwing various unoriginal insults at them. Naruto was too stunned by the fact that a restaurant was letting him eat there to care. "I apologize for before," Ziren said to Tucci, "we've had a rather long day." "The name's Ziren and this is Naruto, a pleasure to meet you and to support such a wonderful eatery. Name's Tucci, and if you think it's great now, just wait till you actually try my ramen," Tucci replied, trying to act cheerfully. "I want to try the pork," Naruto yelled, interrupting the adults' conversation and bringing their attention back to him. "Can I, please, 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 please," Naruto pestered Ziren. "Sure," Ziren replied to Naruto. "One pork for the kid and I'll have a miso," Ziren said, turning his attention back to Tucci. Naruto was so excited to be eating in an actual restaurant that he didn't immediately interrupt Ziren and Tucci's adult talk. Something about shrimp and a civil war. He had heard the term war before and was about to ask what the difference was between a regular war and a civil war, but was interrupted by the arrival of a bowl that looked like it was meant to feed the gods themselves. He immediately gave thanks, pulled apart the disposable chopsticks, and dug in with gusto. The tariffs in the land of water aren't that bad. People just aren't used to them. Now if you want some truly terrible foreign trade policy, look no further than the land of sound. Man, now that's a country no one wants to trade with. Heck, no one even wants to travel through there. Ziren had struck up a conversation with Tucci while eating his ramen. "True as that may be, that doesn't change the fact that I've had to raise prices on my dishes," Tucci angrily replied while pouring a cup of sake and handing it to Ziren. Besides, as long as the war continues it's only going to get worse. True, and from what I heard it won't be ending soon. Here, Ziren said as he pulled out a pen and began writing on a napkin. This is the name of a guy I know from the land of lightning. He fishes for shrimp and he's been hoping to go international for a while now. Everything's all set up, he just needs some customers. Ziren finished as he handed the napkin to Tucci. Land of lightning, you saw. Wah, that was delicious. Naruto shouted as he slammed his bowl down. He looked at the two adults who were staring at him, but his attention was quickly captured by the unfinished bowl of ramen sitting in front of Ziren. Seeing that Naruto was drooling over his unfinished food, Ziren pushed the bowl towards him and had to pull his hand back before Naruto pounced on the food. He certainly has an appetite, Tucci said with a laugh. So it would seem, Ziren replied while rubbing his hand. Anyway, just tell the guy I sent you, he'll set you up with a good deal. Spread the word too, for every guy I send his way he treats me to a luxury dinner. Wow, delicious. Can I have some more please? Naruto asked as sweetly as he could as he put his second bowl of ramen down. Sure, why not? Another bowl for me and another two for the ramen disposal here, Ziren said with a chuckle. 3 bowls coming right up. Tucci said as he turned around to prepare more food. After a couple more bowls and some more friendly banter, Ziren paid for their meals and the two left Ichiraku in much better spirits than when they arrived. Naruto wasn't even bothered by the glares, he was so happy. The two simply walked around for a bit before Ziren abruptly pulled Naruto into an alley. Confused, Naruto was about to ask why they were there when the two clones Ziren made earlier appeared. The one who had taken the folder of papers handed them to the original. After looking through the papers, Ziren nodded and the clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. Did you get everything? Ziren asked the remaining clone. Yes sir, the clone replied with a salute. Good, you know what to do, the original said as he took his backpack back from the clone, who promptly vanished as suddenly as he came, but not in a puff of smoke like the other one. It seems that my business has concluded here in Konoha, Ziren said as he turned his back on Naruto. And that I need to be leaving soon. Tears started welling up in Naruto's eyes. Why? Can't you stay longer? Weren't we friends? Why do you have to leave? He sobbed through tears. Ziren turned back around and bopped Naruto on the head. Let people finish when they're talking. Ziren watched Naruto, who was rubbing the spot Ziren hit and trying to hold back his tears for a bit to make sure he wasn't interrupted again. As I was saying, I will be leaving Konoha soon. But the open road is a big place and I could always use a traveling companion. Ziren finished. What? Naruto stuttered out, not quite understanding what Ziren was saying. Do you want travel across the elemental nations with me, Naruto? Ziren asked, completely serious. Naruto was stunned for 1 minute, then 2. Are you adopting me? The dream of every orphan, adoption. The idea that someone would come along and say that he wanted you to be another member of their family. Naruto was scared that he had misunderstood the question entirely, but couldn't pass up the opportunity to make sure he heard right. If you want to get technical, yay, I guess I am, Ziren replied, rubbing the back of his neck. Naruto, no longer holding back his tears, rushed Ziren and hugged him to the ground. Sobbing, Naruto simply held onto his new family and never wanted to let go. Ziren just smiled softly and ruffled the crying boy's hair. A few hours later found Ziren ready for another journey and Naruto, a backpack of his own, walking out of the front gates of Konoha. The Chunin on duty let them pass without contest, glaring daggers into Naruto the entire time. Naruto was so excited, he had a new family, he was going outside the village for the first time and he never had to go back to the terrible orphanage. Ziren started whistling some half-remembered song, Naruto seeing this tried and failed to copy him. After all, why not whistle? An endless path was open before them, waiting for a traveler to walk it. Life was good. What do you mean you don't know where he is? The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, shouted as he lost some control over his quickly growing temper. Mr. Norihama, a portly, aging gentleman wearing a rather horrendous-looking toupee, was currently sweating a river as he stood before the normally kindly old man who was giving off enough killing intent to make a Biju feel self-conscious. The B-boy as sometimes R runs off and D disappears from time to time. He is usually only gone for a day or T2, but he always C comes back. Mr. Norihama tried to stutter out, but the unguarded rage oozing out of the Hokage was making it extremely difficult to enunciate. How long has he been gone? And to remind you, Mr. Norihama, lying to your Hokage is considered treason. Hiruzen said, letting the threat hang in the air. SSSS, even DD days now, Mr. Norihama barely whispered, looking everywhere but the angry Hokage. You mean to tell me that Naruto has been gone for 7 days and you are only now telling me? Hiruzen yelled as he slammed his fist down on his desk, sending crack spider webbing along its surface. Breath in 1 to 2 to 3, breath out 1 to 2 to 3. The aging Hokage repeated this mantra over and over, again trying to rein in his anger before he leapt across the desk and beat Mr. Norihama to death with his own wig. It would be difficult, but he could manage it. Hiruzen also had no doubt the only reason he was being told now was because his monthly visit was tomorrow. Rat, instantly an Anbu Black Ops wearing a rat mask appeared before the Hokage. Escort Mr. Norihama back to his residence and ensure he remains safe until I call for him. Norihama, who had passed the point of being terrified about a mile ago, was about to say he didn't need an Anbu escort. Until he realized that the Anbu wasn't going to actually make sure he was kept safe, all the orphanage owner could do was to move robotically with the help of the Anbu known as Rat. Continuing his breathing exercises, Hiruzen hit a button on his desk and 4 Anbu materialized before him. Naruto Uzumaki has gone missing. The third Hokage said as he pulled out a photograph and handed it to the nearest Anbu member who was sporting a monkey mask. Go down to the ready room and take as many shinobi as you can and find him. Yes, sir. The 4 Anbu shouted as they disappeared as quickly as they appeared. Hiruzen, realizing that he wasn't going to be able to get any of his paperwork done, reached into a drawer on his desk and pulled out his pipe and stash of tobacco. He had been smoking for about 10 minutes when there was a knock on the door. Before the Hokage could say enter, Monkey entered the room followed closely by a Chunin. Hiruzen, vaguely recognized having just been promoted and was stationed in the ready room waiting for his next assignment. The Chunin was about to greet the Hokage when Hiruzen, not in a mood that resembled good in any way, interrupted him saying, do you have information on Naruto Uzumaki? Why yes sir, the Chunin replied, unnerved by the abrupt manner of the normally cordial old man. About a week ago I was stationed at the gate when I saw someone escorting the demon brat out of the village. I didn't stop them thinking that we could finally be rid of the vile monster. The temperature in the room dropped at least 10 degrees as the third Hokage, who had been given the title God of Shinobi, did not even try to hide his bloodlust. What did you say? The demon brat was he escorted out of the V village, the Chunin stuttered out. He had never been more scared in his life. Even the Anbu standing next to the Chunin was terrified. I who? Hiruzen's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried through the room as if he had shouted. I didn't get a good look, but I think he was a merchant, sir. The Chunin was about ready to piss himself standing before the angered cage. The Hokage remained silent for a few minutes staring off into space. Finally Hiruzen looked at the scared teenager and spoke quietly and slowly, you will walk to the chair directly opposite my office door and sit down, and if you so much as breathe in a way that I find distasteful, I will rip out your intestines and strangle you with them. Despite being spoken in a barely audible whisper, the threat carried the weight of a mountain. Go. The Chunin turned and almost ran for the chair he was directed to. Seeing that the young shinobi had turned into a statue on his chair. Hiruzen turned to Monkey, continue the search. Hopefully the idiot was mistaken. Sir, Monkey replied before vanishing. Hiruzen sighed and pushed the button on his desk summoning 4 new Anbu operatives. Find Itachi Uchiha and bring him to me. Inform him he will be leading an S-class mission. Departure will be immediate. Hiruzen said to the first Anbu. Sir. Hiruzen then turned to the second Anbu, go to the Aburam clan, the Hyuga clan, and the Inyazuka clan, and tell them I need their best trackers of Jonin level for an S-rank mission. Tell them they will be leaving immediately as well. Sir. The aging Cage looked at the third Anbu, find Inogen Yamanaka, and bring him here. Sir. Bringing his attention to the last Anbu, go to the intelligence division and get a message to Jiraiya, tell him the fox has escaped the chicken coop and tell him to bring Tsunade with him. Tell him that if she refuses she will be labeled as a missing nin. If she continues to refuse, tell her that her apprentice will be labeled as a missing nin too. Yes sir. For the first time one of the Anbu hesitated. Oh. The Anbu vanished. Hiruzen sighed as he refilled his pipe. He pushed a different button on his desk. Yes Lord Hokage. A female voice came in over the intercom. Gather a team and go over the entry and exit records for the main gate starting 8 days ago. Look for any discrepancies. People checking in but not checking out. That sort of thing. Start with merchants and expand your search from there. And bring me a cup of tea, it's going to be a long night. Yes Lord Hokage. The aging Cage turned in his chair and stared out at the Hokage monument, more specifically the head of the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. It had been such a simple promise, how could I have failed so miserably? I'm so sorry Minato. Hiruzen lost himself in his musings for a time and was pulled out when he heard his intercom turn back on. Lord Hokage, Inogen Yamanaka is here. Good, send him in. A tall man with long blonde hair walked into his office. Good, you made it Inogen, the Hokage said, not giving the Yamanaka time to say anything. Did you see the Chunin sitting in front of my office? At a nod from Inogen, Hiruzen continued. I want you to go through his memories of 7 days ago when he let Naruto Uzumaki walk out of the village accompanied by an unknown man. Find out who this man was. Yes Lord Hokage. Inogen replied, turning around and walking towards the still terrified Chunin. Several minutes later Inogen returned to report. I'm sorry Lord Third, but his memories are blurred with hatred and anything that was not the focus of said emotion is hazy and indistinct. The Yamanaka concluded. Thank you Inogen, take him to Marino, maybe he can get something out of him. Hiruzen ordered the Jonin with a sigh. As you command, Lord Third, Inogen replied, not wanting to argue with the furious shinobi lord. A few minutes later Hiruzen's intercom turns on once more. Lord Hokage, an Abiram is here, stating he was requested for a mission. Yes, inform me when he is joined by Hyaga, Inuzuka, and Ichiraku. Yes, sir. Hiruzen put out his pipe. It was time to get down to business. Sure enough, after about 15 minutes all 4 shinobi he had asked for were present. Kakashi Haddock, Himura Hyaga, Sauda Inuzuka, and most surprising of all, the heir to the Abiram clan, Shibi Abiram. Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox, has been kidnapped. The reaction was as he expected, shock. You are to find him and bring him back. If you are unable to bring him back, find out who took him. Itachi, you will be leading this team. Any questions? When and where was he last seen? This question came from Shibi. 7 days ago at the main gate, Hiruzen replied. Do you have anything with his scent? Asked Sauda. Luckily Hiruzen did. Naruto had forgotten his scarf and the aging ninja hadn't gotten around to returning it. He handed it to the Inuzuka, who in turn held it over his ninken's nose. You are to leave immediately. Sir. Replied the team before hurrying out. The tired old man turned back and stared at the Hokage monument, contemplating where he had gone so terribly wrong. Night had fallen as 5 shadows rushed along the moonlit road. Leading these shadows was a large white and brown dog who every few feet would lower his nose and take a few sniffs before continuing forward. Behind him 4 shinobi followed. They had been on the hunt for over 12 hours and were beginning to tire. Luckily they were catching up as their target didn't seem able to move quickly. The team stopped for a quick rest and to confer about their assignment. Anything to report? Itachi asked. The scent cuts in and out intermittently, but we've picked up the scent of the other guy and can follow that easily. Sauda Inuzuka informed Itachi. Like Acacia bugs have been picking up wisps of chakra on this path. What does that mean, you ask? That someone or something with a massive amount of chakra has passed this way recently. Shibi Abiram stated in the monotone characteristic of his clan. I have yet to see anything with my eyes, unfortunately, Himura Hyaga said, a bit disappointed. Right, let's keep going, Itachi said before motioning the Inuzuka's ninken to take the lead. A few hours later said ninken stopped and whined to the Inuzuka. Looking confused, the dog shinobi dropped to all fours and began sniffing around with his ninken, looking more and more confused. Report, Itachi ordered. I don't get it. The scent trail just ends. Not only the Uzumakis but his captors too. Broaden your search radius, see if they double backed on us. Shibi, what do your bugs say? Itachi said as he turned towards the Abiram. The trail just ends, it makes no sense. Why? If they double back, then the chakra trail leading to this point would have been stronger, but it wasn't. Even if they had begun implementing track hiding techniques, they shouldn't be able to suppress the Jinchuriki's chakra. Shibi stated with a perplexed expression on his face, bugs buzzing around his body. Wait, I see something, Himura stated, pointing up into a tree. It looks like a kunai with a piece of paper attached. It's embedded in a branch near the middle of the tree. Is it an explosive tag? Itachi asked as he took a defensive stance. It doesn't appear to be so, sir, Himura said, trying to ease her companions. Shibi, Kakashi turned to the Abiram heir. Nodding, Shibi raised his arm, releasing a swarm of bugs that immediately flew to the indicated tree. A few seconds later the swarm returned with a kunai suspended in the air. Adjusting his glasses, Shibi examined the knife more closely. There is no chakra stored, nor is there any poison on it. It is safe. Shibi stated before handing it to Itachi for further scrutiny. Immediately Itachi looked at the paper and saw a single sentence written on it. I gave you 3 days to fix your mistakes. Itachi closed his eyes before opening them, revealing blood-red eyes with 3 Tomio marks spinning around his pupil. Using his Sharingan, Itachi was able to pick up on details normally invisible to the human eye. The kunai was of average Konoha make, Itachi had 4 exactly like it on him. The paper was average exploding tag material and could be easily obtained with little effort inside any hidden village. With that in mind, Itachi brought his full attention to the written words on the paper in hopes of finding a clue as to who the owner was. The sentence was written in an outdated form of calligraphy, which would make a handwriting analysis near useless. Maybe the ink can shed some light, Itachi thought, though he greatly doubted that. He passed it around the team to see if they could find anything he missed. For the most part they didn't, but the Inuzuka confirmed it carried the scent of the man who had taken Naruto. Spread out and see if you can pick up the trail. If we can't, we'll go over the trail and confirm that they didn't double back, Itachi ordered his team before bringing his attention back to the knife. Pondering the letter and wondering why it had been left. Was it a message, and if so, to who? The team found nothing. It was as if the pair simply vanished into thin air. They even went over the trail on the way back to Konoha and found no evidence of their target doubling back or branching off. It was this unfortunate event that found the team returning to Konoha in failure. I'm sorry, Lord Third, but we lost their trail, Itachi said, bowing his head to the Hokage. Which direction were they heading when you lost them? Hiruzen asked, trying to salvage something out of the situation. They were heading north, but judging the culprit on his ability to cover his tracks, his final destination most likely wasn't in that direction, Itachi answered. Hiruzen lifted the recovered letter and contemplated it. That was the same conclusion he had reached. If I may, Lord Hokage. Shibi spoke up from behind Itachi. What is it, Shibi? Hiruzen said as he turned his attention to the Aburum. Well, I do not wish to contradict Ichiraku, Lord Hokage, but I would be remiss if I did not do my duty as a Konoha shinobi and gave my dissenting opinion, Shibi said. Please just get to the point, Shibi, it's been a long few days, Hiruzen sighed tiredly. Of course, Lord Hokage, Shibi replied while adjusting his glasses. I do not believe Naruto Uzumaki was kidnapped as was initially believed because the kidnapper's action do not follow basic logic. If his purpose was to kidnap our village's Jinchuriki, why would he go through the village's main gate and be witnessed by a Konoha shinobi? Also, the trail we followed was not the hurried rush of someone trying to make the border. And if he did not wish to be found, he would have hid his tracks earlier, making it impossible to follow him at all, Shibi finished. The Hokage stared dumbly at Shibi while trying to digest what was said. If what you say is true, then why was Naruto taken out of the village? I cannot say, Lord Hokage, Shibi answered while stepping back behind Kakashi. Even if the reasons for Naruto's leaving were peaceful, I cannot take that risk and must prepare for all outcomes, Hiruzen sighed to himself. You are dismissed. With a wave, Hiruzen dismissed the 4 shinobi who promptly left. Let the reasons be peaceful, please let them be peaceful, Hiruzen prayed. Time passed for the village hidden in the leaves. Eventually Jiraiya arrived in the village with a very angry Tsunade. Eventually Hiruzen mollified her by setting up a medic training program in the academy and by paying off all of her gambling debts, of course. While Tsunade was angry, Jiraiya was livid and needed to be convinced to not burn down the orphanage Naruto had stayed at. He left to utilize his vast intelligence network to find Konoha's Jinchuriki. Years went by and no trace of the boy was found, nor were there any rumors or movements that implied any of the hidden villages were making preparations for war. And time moved on inexorable, needless of the whims of mortals. 8 years later, 2 travelers were walking down a small path in the land of fire. One was tall, wearing old traveling clothes and a backpack that seemed to need another pocket or two to hold everything, with a sheathed sword hanging from its side. His companion was a boy with blonde hair, blue eyes, and was wearing a jumpsuit of an eye-blinding orange. He too had a backpack and a sword attached to it. Eventually the 2 travelers came to a fork in the road. The younger traveler looked to his older companion, waiting to see which way they would go. The older traveler looked to the path on his left that went to an unknown future, to new adventures and new people to meet, to freedom. The path on his right led to Konoha, to a place known and mapped, but also to an even more unknown future. He was sorely tempted to take the path on his left, but one look at his younger companion made the choice for him. He could feel it just below the surface, the anger, the hate and the malevolence wanting to be unleashed. His path was chosen the moment he first heard the boy. Let's go, Naruto, he said as he took his first step down the right path. The sun had risen fully and there was not a cloud in the beautiful azure sky. Izumo and Kotetsu were on gate duty, thanks largely to an insensitive comment about the fire daimyo's wife and her pet-carrying capabilities, or lack thereof. Not that either was complaining, it was, after all, an excuse to laze around most of the day. Okay, I'm thinking of a number, Kotetsu said to Izumo. No, Izumo replied. It's between 1 and 10, Kotetsu continued leaning on his chair's back legs. No, we're on duty, Izumo said with a sigh. Come on, I'll give you a hint, Kotetsu tried egging on Izumo. At 6.5, Izumo said. Sit straight, someone's coming, the Chunin continued as he pushed down on Kotetsu's chair, causing it to slam into the ground. Sure enough, 2 people were walking up the road heading towards them. The pair, a kid and an older man, were whistling a jaunty tune and the younger of the pair was actually skipping. As they came closer, more details could be made out. The boy had blonde hair and shockingly blue eyes, was wearing an agonizingly orange jumpsuit and had a pair of goggles strapped to his forehead, but his most intriguing feature was the set of 3 whisker-like marks on each of his cheek. The older man had black hair that was long enough to cover his dark brown eyes that held more experience than his age implied. He was wearing worn traveler clothes that might have been a color at some point and a heavily patched cloak. Both were wearing heavily stuffed backpacks with a sheathed sword dangling from their sides. Morning, the pair said as they approached the 2 Chunin on guard at the gate. Identification, Izumo said before Kotetsu could launch into a conversation and delayed doing his job. Of course, the adult said as he handed 2 sets of identity papers over to Izumo. Iron Adair and Menma Narimaru. Izumo read off the papers. Those are our names, don't wear 'em out, the now identified Menma said, sporting a kilowatt smile. Reason for visiting and length of stay. Izumo said, looking over the papers. Mediator for a negotiation and indeterminate. But probably no more than a week, Zirin responded. And to feast on local ramen. That's very important, Menma interjected. Yes, yes, and to eat of course, Ziren said rolling his eyes. Are you armed? Izumo asked trying to bring the questioning back around. Ziren turned his head toward the obvious sword hanging from his backpack for a solid minute before bringing his attention back to Izumo. No sir, whatever could make you think that, Ziren replied in a flat sarcastic voice. I have to ask, Izumo sighed while Kotetsu guffawed. Relax, relax, I'm just giving you a hard time. Here have a gummy bear, Ziren said as he pulled out a small plastic bag and offered it to the pair. Kotetsu reached in and pulled out a handful before Izumo could tell them they couldn't accept gifts while on duty. I've been through enough customs checkpoints to know the drill. Here, an itemized list of anything that can be construed as a weapon or inflict serious bodily harm. Izumo went carefully over the list while Kotetsu looked over his shoulder. Would you like to look through it? Ziren said as he hefted his backpack onto the counter. Oh wait, I almost forgot. I have exploding tags. Menma yelled out proudly. Why the hell do you have exploding tags? Ziren asked as he face-palmed. What have I told you about making those? You're going to blow yourself up. I'll need to see those, Izumo said sharply as he and Kotetsu both went on guard. Of course, Menma replied happily while pulling out a pile of small paper rectangles and presenting them proudly to Izumo. I drew them myself, I swear. I can't believe that shinobi taught you how to draw them, Ziren said his hand still firmly pressed to his face. Izumo and Kotetsu looked over them carefully but almost instantly saw something wrong. These won't work kid, Kotetsu said holding one of the tags up. What? Menma's face fell. Yeah, these things wouldn't spark let alone explode. You really need to work on your penmanship, Kotetsu said as he applied chakra to the tag which glowed briefly then nothing. Regardless we'll have to confiscate them anyway, Kotetsu said reverting back to being relaxed now that the danger had passed. Yes and Menma will be more than happy to give you all the explosive tags he has on him, Ziren smiled at the pair while pushing Menma's head down into a bow. Grumbling Menma fished through his pockets before pulling out more explosive tag duds. I said all of them, Ziren said glaring at Menma. Groaning the orange kid reached into his sleeve and pulled out a few more. But now apologize for making the shinobi worried. I'm sorry, Naruto apologized. Now tell them you won't be drawing anymore and that you won't be having ramen while we're in the village as punishment. Ziren commanded. What? Menma shouted opening and closing his mouth like a landed fish. I told you those were dangerous. Obviously you need a more practical lesson to punch that through that thick skull of yours, Ziren finished by bopping Menma on the head. Rubbing his head Menma turned to Izumo and Kotetsu and repeated what Ziren said. Izumo looked a little pitying at the boy who had been so excited to eat ramen, while Kotetsu grinned at not being the one who was being scolded for a change. Anyway, Izumo said after Menma finished talking. You're clear to enter. Welcome to Konoha. Thank you gentlemen and have a good day, Ziren said as put on his backpack and escorted a dejected-looking Menma into the village. Menma continued looking dejected until after getting out of sight of the gate before sporting a toothy grin. I can't believe how that always works, he said smirking. As if I would make a mistake on an explosive tag. It's all about expectations Naruto. So long as you can subvert their expectations there's nothing that can't be accomplished, Ziren said as he popped a few gummy bears into his mouth. And what do you mean not making a mistake? How many sets of clothes do you think you went through figuring the matrices out? I still have the receipts. Details, the now rightfully identified Naruto said, waving away his sensei's concerns. Come on let's go get some ramen, he shouted before running off. Be careful, Ziren shouted after the youth. Turning his head back Naruto shouted, you worry too Mew, thump, Naruto was interrupted when he ran into something rather soft but solid. Pinwheeling his arms Naruto managed to maintain his balance, the person he ran into was not so lucky. Said unlucky person was a girl, but the only thing he could make out was blue hair and a cream-colored jacket. Seeing that he ran into somebody he extended his and started to apologize. Sorry about that I wasn't watching where I was going, Naruto was rendered speechless when the girl he had run into looked up at him. Her lavender eyes, though pupilless, held a gentle warmth that Naruto couldn't look away from. Sorry, the girl stuttered, a blush dusting her cheeks as she reached out and took Naruto's offered hand. I wasn't paying attention. And no, it was my fault I wasn't looking where I was going, Naruto said as he pulled the girl to her feet. I'm always running into things, Naruto said rubbing the back of his head. Well ain't this cute, Ziren said causing Naruto and the girl to nearly jump out of their skin. Geez, don't sneak up on me sensei, Naruto said, trying to get his heart rate to go back down. I was no, you know what never mind, Ziren hoisted his pack and continued walking down the road. You know the drill. Try to keep out of trouble please. He stopped and looked back at the pair for a second before smirking and continuing down the street. Oh and I'm sure that girl has places she needs to be so you should probably let her go, Ziren yelled over his shoulder. The pair stood there puzzling over Ziren's words when, as one, they looked down and saw that they were still holding hands. They looked up, briefly meeting each other's eyes, before quickly pulling their hands away. Again, sorry I ran into you, Naruto apologized again. Name's Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto introduced himself giving one of his trademark grins. Crap. I'm supposed to go by Menma. Play it cool, play it cool. Hinata Hyuga, Hinata said, a small smile gracing her lips. What could she say? Naruto's smile is infectious. I'm new to town, do you know any good ramen stands around her? Naruto asked cheerily. Sorry B, but I need to go, Hinata stuttered out, making to run down the street, remembering why she had been running in the first place. Before she could though, a voice cut across the hubbub of the crowding streets. Lady Hinata. Lady Hinata. Where are you? Hinata panicked and started looking for a place to hide. You trying to hide from someone? Naruto asked rather dumbly. Hinata started panicking even more and worried he would ask why. She wasn't even sure herself, she just felt like being away from her fellow clansmen. Cool, Naruto said, grabbing her hand, causing Hinata to eep, rather cutely Naruto thought, and pulled her to the side of the street. He then threw his arm around her shoulder, causing a rather impressive blush, and formed his other hand into a hand sign and began concentrating, muttering something under his breath. Worrying that her handler, KM, would find her, and wondering why Naruto was holding her, rather intimately, opened her mouth to ask why they were in this position. That was when she felt it. As if someone had hollowed her out, leaving her a husk, empty. But it was more than just that. Time seemed to dilate, colors became muted, washed out, and sounds turned unintelligible, as if coming from a great distance and through a wall. Air gained a weight to it, like breathing in molasses. She saw the crowds on the street, but felt separated from them as though she could reach out and her hand would pass right through them. Only Naruto remained unchanged, remained real. Then she spotted KM. He was scanning the crowd looking for her. Hinata's heart stopped when he looked directly at her, but his eyes kept moving, like she wasn't there, and he continued on. Colors became sharper, sounds became clearer, air regained its weightlessness, and time resumed its natural pace as the world returned back to focus. Feeling dizzy, Hinata wobbled on her feet before finally collapsing to the ground, followed quickly by Naruto. Ha ha ha, that took more out of me than I thought it would, Naruto panted out. What was that? Hinata asked dizzily. A secret technique, Naruto smiled cheekily. I'm not allowed to use it unless sensei gives me permission, but I figured you needed help. Won't why you get into trouble? Hinata asked worriedly, not wanting anyone to get into trouble because of her. Not if it's our secret, Naruto said, smiling conspiratorially. Hinata became lightheaded again, but not because she was recovering from whatever technique Naruto used, but because nobody ever went this far out of their way for her. Even her father considered her a failure and not worth expending time on her. Naruto, on the other hand, had just met her and was helping her, even if that meant getting in trouble himself. She was about to try and thank him, but was interrupted, loudly, by her rumbling stomach, causing a new blush to appear on her face. The song her stomach was singing became a duet when Naruto's stomach added its voice. Heh, that technique makes people hungry as a side effect. I don't know why, sensei won't tell me, Naruto said, standing back up. Let's go get something to eat, Naruto said, holding his hand out to Hinata. Hinata had decided to run away from her handler on a whim. She didn't want to go back to the compound, to all the indifferent stares judging her, claiming her as worthless. Here she met a complete stranger who had not only gone completely out of their way, but made her feel accepted with such a simple gesture. So when she saw Naruto's extended hand, there wasn't anything she wanted to do more than grab a hold of it. And she did just that. Ziren, who was normally a very confident get things done type of person, was extremely nervous. Before him stood the Hokage Tower, the nerve center of the most powerful hidden village in the elemental nations, and his point of no return. Years spent meticulously staying out of politics, wars, and other conflicts, about to go straight down the drain. Taking a deep breath and grabbing the hilt of his sword using its solidity to steady himself. Ziren moved forward and entered the tower. Leaving his pack behind at the hotel left him feeling naked, but he needed to be mobile, just in case. Steeling himself, he put on a cocky smirk and approached the Hokage's elderly secretary. Greetings, I would like to see the Hokage. Do you have an appointment? She asked, not even looking up. Unfortunately not, but I do have something he needs to see rather urgently, Ziren replied cheerily, pulling out a small photograph out of his pocket and placing it on the desk. The secretary, having served the Hokage for almost 15 years now, had heard all the possible reasons nobody thought that they needed to see the most important man in the village immediately. She was about to send the upstart walking when she saw the photograph he placed on the table. It was of a youth approximately 7 years old wearing an orange t-shirt and blue shorts, smiling and giving a victory sign to the camera. But that wasn't what caught her eye. Oh no, that would be his blue eyes, blonde hair and most importantly the 3 whisker-like marks on each of his cheeks. There could be no mistake, it was the demon brat who had gone missing 8 years ago. A night she would always remember due to the immense bloodlust emanating from the Hokage's office. But the kid went missing when he was 4 and the picture showed him older than that. The realization of what that meant hit her like a ton of bricks. This man had seen the demon kid after he went missing. She looked back and forth between the picture and the swordsman standing before her, trying to get her brain working again. Something like this was way beyond her pay grade. Without saying a word, she stood ramrod straight and bolted towards the Hokage's office. Giving a sigh of relief that the first part of his plan was working, Ziren took a seat and waited. He could sense the surge of emotions coming from the office, as well as Anbu moving around him, getting into position to attack if they should be ordered to. So far so good. About a minute later, the secretary walked robotically out and turned towards him. "He will see you now," she said mechanically. Ziren stood up, bowed to the terrified secretary before leaping out of the frying pan and straight into the fire. The Hokage was glaring at him the moment he stepped through the door. If looks could kill, Ziren would have burst into flames the moment he entered the office. "I will warn you right now, if this is a waste of my time I will not act mercifully," the Hokage said. "I assure you the information I have is well worth your time." "The name's Ziren Adair, an honor to meet you," Ziren said jovially, extending his hand towards Hiruzen. "Where did you get this picture?" Hiruzen cut straight to the point, ignoring the outstretched hand. "I took it myself, of course," Ziren replied, taking a seat when he realized that a handshake was not incoming. "I was the one who took him from the village after all." "What?" Hiruzen's facade briefly broke at the straightforward answer. Ziren could see the gears in his head turning, piecing everything together. "You admit to kidnapping Naruto Uzumaki?" It was not a question. "I did not kidnap anybody," Ziren's jovial tone dropped from his voice. "I saw a 4-year-old boy wearing rags in the snow and decided to give him a better life. Do you think that's all he was, a simple 4-year orphan?" Hiruzen asked, losing hold on his anger. "Of course not, he's the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi," Ziren replied simply. "I knew the moment I saw him." Hiruzen was reeling at this point. The man responsible for what he considered one of his greatest failures was sitting before him, calmly talking about it like he was discussing the weather. Trying to get a hold of his emotions, Hiruzen tried asking questions to make this whole thing make sense. "How did you know?" "I'm a censor, but not just any censor. I'm the best goddamn censor you'll ever meet," Ziren replied proudly. "His seal is very well made, though I had to concentrate in order to feel what was underneath." "So you kidnapped Naruto knowing he was our Jinchuriki?" "And just damn the consequences," Hiruzen said through gritted teeth, leaking killer intent. "I did not kidnap him." Ziren enunciated each syllable, releasing his own killing intent. "Kidnapping implies I took him from somewhere safe. I can tell you without exaggeration or hyperbole that I gave Naruto a better life than he ever could have had here. Who are you to make that call?" Hiruzen all but shouted. A 4-year-old child thrown out into the cold with barely even a blanket. Adults calling him a monster and telling their kids to hate him. All because their beloved hero picked him out of a crowd. You'd be lucky if he didn't try to release the Kyuubi just so he could watch this wretched village burn," Ziren said, putting as much venom into his voice. Hiruzen took a breath to argue back, but as the man's words sunk in, he deflated. He was right, he was absolutely right. After Naruto's disappearance, Hiruzen did a little digging and discovered all the mistreatment aimed toward Naruto, more than a few heads rolled because of it. Hiruzen wanted to be angry at this man who had nearly thrown the village into disarray, but found that he couldn't muster any true rage. "If this place is so wretched, why are you here?" Hiruzen asked, looking and feeling his advanced age. Ziren took a deep breath, centering himself. He had let his emotions get the better of him, and that was helping no one, least of all Naruto, who the person this whole thing was for anyway. "Let me put this on the table up front. I didn't choose Konoha because it was the best choice. I chose Konoha because it was the least terrible choice." At the Hokage's raised eyebrows, Ziren continued. "As Naruto has matured, the seal has, for lack of a better term, evolved. Over the years it has started releasing more and more of the Kyuubi's chakra into his system. I can't help him alone." "Has it affected his personality?" Hiruzen asked, concerned. "No. The changes are still subtle. Even Naruto himself doesn't know," Ziren said calmly. "And you want our expertise so you can help him," Hiruzen finished. The aging Kage wanted with all his heart to simply give Ziren everything he needed to help Naruto, to try and rectify his mistake. But he was the Hokage first and Hiruzen Sarutobi second, he had to put the village first. "Why should I help you? I can just order my Anbu to find Naruto, have Root brainwash him into becoming loyal, and have you killed. In fact, I can order all that with a wave of my hand. And just so you know, you are surrounded by 6 Anbu agents with 8 more on the floor below us and another dozen outside. I told you, I'm the best goddamn censor you've ever met. It would be in your best interest to not underestimate me." Ziren interrupted the Hokage. "I have raised Naruto. He is my son and I will do anything for him." Hiruzen had to admit he was impressed. Not only did he get the count perfect, but his will was adamant. He meant every word. And as for why you shouldn't give that signal. I have set up a system with Naruto that when I release a signal only he could see, he is to flee. He can be quite slippery, and catching him would be no easy feat. As for why you should help me. I could appeal to your emotional side saying you could fix your mistake. Ziren was pleased to see the Hokage flinch at this and continued. But I am a merchant and understand give and take. I wish for Naruto to join Konoha as a shinobi per his natural-born citizenship, and I wish to join as well per enemy defection law. Ziren finished explaining, waiting to see the Kage's reaction. Hiruzen was stunned for what felt like the umpteenth time today. First this man takes Naruto out of the village, but now, not only is he bringing him back, but also wishes to join the village. You want to join? Hiruzen asked dumbly. Did I stutter? Ziren replied. Why us? Why not join any of the other villages? Hiruzen asked, trying to buy time to order his thoughts. As I said, you're the least terrible choice. None of the lesser villages would have the necessary information or experience. Kiri is in the middle of a civil war. Kumo has some practices that I truly despise and would likely throw Naruto into their breeding program due to his Uzumaki heritage. Suna treats their Jinchuriki worse than you do. And joining Iwa would likely trigger a war when they learn you don't have your Jinchuriki. Ziren explained. Having put his thoughts into a coherent train, Hiruzen got a slight confidence boost from the backhanded praise. How familiar are you with defection law? Hiruzen asked. If you're asking me if I am aware of the requirements that need to be met in order for me to be allowed to join Konoha, then yes I am, Ziren said, pulling out a scroll from his pocket and placing it on the table. Here is a sampler on some information I know. You'd be surprised what a merchant can sniff up. Picking up a scroll, Hiruzen perused its contents. When Ziren saw the old man raise his eyebrows, he placed his elbows on the Hokage's desk and steepled his fingers, saying let's talk business, a smirk playing across his face. Ah, finally a ramen stand. Naruto shouted, throwing his hands into the air. Hinata had been wondering why they kept passing up restaurant after restaurant, and now she had her answer. Not that she minded Naruto dragging her around, their conversations while walking were interesting. And by conversations she meant Naruto monologued to her, while she occasionally gave one-word answers. If Naruto minded, he didn't show it, besides Hinata really liked his travel stories. They were something out of a fairy tale. All about freedom, adventure, and companionship, things Hinata didn't really have in her life. Ramen truly is the food of the gods, Naruto said, bringing Hinata out of her self-reflection. Don't you agree, Hinata? I've never actually had our ramen before, Hinata stuttered out while pushing her index fingers together. When a reply from Naruto didn't come, Hinata looked up to see why. Naruto had a look of abject shock and horror on his face, like she had just told him she kicked puppies for fun. Now Naruto thinks I'm some sort of weirdo. Now he probably doesn't want to spend time with me or be my friend. You always say the wrong thing. That's why you don't have any friends. Her thoughts continued to spiral into self-deprecation until she felt hands land on both her shoulders. Why, you've never had ramen before? How can such a tragedy be possible? Quick, we must right this terrible wrong as quickly as possible. With that, Naruto turned Hinata toward the ramen stand, named Ichiraku by the by, and marched her through the entrance and onto one of the stools, before taking one for himself. Welcome to Ichiraku, called out the slightly rotund ramen chef. Name's Tucci, what can I get you? My friend Hinata here has never had ramen before, Naruto said with all the solemnity of a funeral service. It's a good thing you brought her here, then we need to fix this quickly, Tucci replied, equally solemn. I don't think that not having our ramen is such a big deal, Hinata timidly interjected. Both Naruto and Tucci looked at her like she had just stated that the sky was yellow with pink polka dots. It's worse than I thought, Naruto said to Tucci, who nodded sagely. She needs ramen now. But I'll have you know that I'm what was that word? Koni, no konu, kanis, dang it, sensei uses it all the time. See connoisseur? Hinata asked. Yes, that word, Naruto snapped his fingers. I'm a connoisseur of ramen and have tried ramen all over the elemental nations. So I can be pretty harsh. Is that a challenge? Tucci said, rolling his sleeves up. I'll give you the best ramen you've ever had. Tucci finished as sparks leaped between Naruto and the chef. Tucci turned towards his broth and threw himself into his cooking with a fervor, while Naruto continued his monologue to Hinata. Since Hinata hadn't eaten since Naruto did whatever it was that he did, her stomach growled loudly. Hinata would have been more embarrassed if not for two facts. The first was that Naruto's stomach growled even louder than hers, and the second was that he just laughed it off, making even the shy Hyaga girl giggle along. Finally, two steaming bowls of ramen were placed before them with a smirking Tucci crossing his arms. Well, Mr. Connoisseur, let's see what you think of this. Maintaining eye contact, Naruto snapped apart a pair of disposable chopsticks. Dipping them into his ramen, Naruto lifted a healthy portion of his noodles into his mouth before slurping them up. Hinata was a little confused at seeing Naruto so serious. Her puzzling was interrupted when Naruto's eyes widened. Holy crap, that's good. And without further ado dived into his ramen, throwing manners to the wind. Seeing that Naruto was so heavily engrossed by his food, Hinata thought that she should eat before her ramen got cold. Taking her chopsticks, Hinata lifted some noodles to her mouth and quickly bit down on them. Her mouth exploded in salty and savory goodness. Her eyes widened like Naruto's, and she quickly followed suit by throwing manners to the wind, though not to the degree Naruto did. Uchi's smug smirk was growing by the second watching the two kids dig into his cooking. Humph, as if anyone else can compete with my ramen. Naruto finished his ramen quite quickly, and Hinata wasn't too far behind, well for a beginner that is. That was great, I'll have another bowl please, Naruto said grinning. You want one too, Hinata? Hinata thought about it for a minute. She didn't want Naruto to think she was a glutton, but on the other hand she was still very hungry and the ramen did smell very good. I'll have another, she said timidly. She was elated when Naruto gave her a dazzling smile that made her stomach feel fluttery. Alright, another one for Hinata too, Naruto said to Tucci. Naruto had just finished his 7th bowl and Hinata her 3rd when they were brought out of their ramen-induced euphoria by the sound of shouting. Hinata looked over and saw a man yelling at Tucci, telling him that his ramen was disgusting and not worth his money. PSST, hey Hinata. Hinata turned towards the whisper and found Naruto's face only a few inches from hers, causing her to flinch back and her face to flush. Why yeah, and Naruto? Let's prank him, Naruto said, sporting a mischievous grin that promised trouble. What? No one should get away with being that mean to someone that nice, Naruto pleaded. This statement caused an internal debate to start inside her head. On one side was a small Hinata sporting angel wings, saying that she would get into trouble with her clan if she behaved in such an unbefitting manner. On the other side was Devil Hinata saying it would be so much fun and that this was the kind of stuff friends did together. It wasn't a very even debate as over the years her devil side had been getting louder as the pressure from her clan increased. Being around Naruto was like giving that side of her a megaphone. Looking at the orange-clad boy who was waiting expectantly for her answer, she steeled herself and replied, let's do it. And that's how she found herself on a rooftop with a massive water balloon in her hands. She didn't even know they made water balloons that big. Hinata's part in the plan was to throw the balloon at the mean customer, after which Naruto would enact the second phase. Naruto, she came to learn, could sense chakra and used his ability to easily track their target down. He was coming, crouching down so as not to be seen. Hinata readied her awkward missile. Wait for it, now. Hinata lobbed the balloon over the low wall of the roof and quickly ducked down so as not to be seen. A satisfying splash, an indignant shout, and a muffled poof later Hinata made her way to street level, where she met up with Naruto. Seeing that Hinata had made it to street level, Naruto grinned and turned her so that she could see their handiwork. The ornery man was soaking wet and covered in fake feathers and glitter, giving him the look of a wet peacock. Hinata ducked back into the alley and leaned against the wall trying to suppress her laughter. Naruto didn't bother trying, hold back and let loose a huge laugh, causing tears to roll down her eyes. Hinata's willpower could only hold for so long, and eventually she doubled over laughing too. I knew it. Naruto said, trying to relearn to breath. Hey knew what? Hinata panted out. You have a really nice laugh, Naruto said without the least bit of shame. This caused Hinata to invent a new shade of red altogether. Starting to feel lightheaded, she had to lean against a wall in order to remain upright. Hey, Hina, you okay? Naruto asked as he started fussing over her. I'm fine, she stuttered out as the fluttery feeling in her stomach returned with a vengeance. So caught up in remaining conscious she didn't even notice Naruto's familiar term of address. Oh good, Naruto said as he released a breath he wasn't aware he was holding. He was very concerned for his new friend. Are you sure you're fine? Why yes, Hinata said, standing up straight. This only caused Naruto's mischievous grin to return even bigger than before. Good, because I have another prank idea. Naruto finished this by holding up a rope and a few pieces of paper. The part of Hinata was worried that she would already get into a huge amount of trouble with her family for what she had already done today and that Naruto was being a bad influence on her. The rest of her told that part to shut up. He knows the shadow clone jutsu and that should about cover Naruto's combat capabilities. Ziren finished. How does Naruto know the shadow clone jutsu? Hiruzen asked. I taught it to him, Ziren replied, simply pulling out a brand new bag of gummy bears. How do you know the shadow clone jutsu? The Hokage asked, even more perplexed. Years ago I was a member of a caravan being escorted by some Konoha jounin, Ziren replied, offering some gummy bears to the aging man. And one of these jounin taught it to you? Hiruzen asked, wondering who he needed to have a long and detailed conversation with about this breach in security. Course not. I don't think you quite understand the whole best goddamn sensor you've ever seen thing. I saw him use the jutsu, sensed how the chakra worked, observed the hand signs, and figured out how to perform it myself, the perplexing merchant said, popping a few pieces of candy into his mouth. Just like that? You saw it once and was able to do it. Hiruzen had been thrown for quite a few curveballs over the course of the negotiation, he should have expected them by now. Well, I can't do it like the Uchiha, where they see it once and can perform it instantly, Ziren began explaining. It normally takes me a few weeks to be able to replicate a technique in this manner. And the technique I come up with is usually only a derivative of the original technique. Luckily the shadow clone jutsu is simple and was easily replicatable. I mean, come on, it has a hand sign. Hiruzen found this fascinating and was about to inquire what other techniques he had appropriated in this manner when Ziren leaned over in his chair and was staring over the old Kage's shoulder. Peering around, Hiruzen was greeted by an unusual sight. What appeared to be a couple of his ninja were frantically running across the rooftops of Konoha, only for them to change direction sharply and run in the opposite direction. Turning to a shadow, Hiruzen signaled the Anbu to investigate what was going on. The two men sat there and enjoyed the spectacle of the ninjas running around like headless chickens. Their enjoyment was interrupted when the Anbu returned to report. Lord Hokage, the Anbu said, bowing. It seems that a pair of teenagers have gone around and have performed multiple practical jokes. Ranging from drenching a visiting dignitary to vandalizing a storefront with multicolored paint. Smack, you gotta be kidding me. Ziren said through his hand. Continue, Hiruzen said to the Anbu, glancing at the exasperated merchant. Some of the victims were shinobi and they gave chase. However, the culprits are proving very difficult to catch and have laid traps to humiliate their pursuers. The situation escalated from there. What of the pranksters themselves? Hiruzen asked. The culprits have proven most uncanny and have only seemed to be cornered when there was a trap to be sprung. However, we have a basic physical description of the two. One seems to be female, around 12 or 13 years old, short blue hair and a cream-colored jacket. The second one, who seems to be the mastermind, is around the same age, has blonde hair, and is wearing a bright orange jumpsuit. Ziren's head met the desk with quite a bit of force, causing the Anbu and the village leader to stare at man. That idiot. Ziren hissed to himself as he pushed himself up and made his way to the window. He is in so much trouble, that ungrateful brat. Opening the window, Ziren climbed out and started jumping across the Konoha rooftops. Hiruzen, perplexed at this behavior from the serious man, did the only reasonable thing and followed. Adrenaline was coursing through Hinata's veins as she and Naruto ran from their pursuers. She couldn't remember the last time she had had this much fun. Sure, she was probably going to be in huge trouble with her father later, but Naruto's infectious laugh and the rush of outwitting those that chased them made her not care. Naruto's sensory ability had proved invaluable, allowing the wanted pair to easily lose or outmaneuver their pursuers. Stopping quickly and cocking his head like he was trying listen to something distant, which Hinata had learned meant he was focusing on his chakra sense, grabbed Hinata's hand and tore off in a different direction. Come on Hinata, it's time for the grand finale, Naruto shouted, giving her his biggest smile yet. Oh okay, she answered, breathlessly wondering what Naruto had planned. Hinata was quickly pulled out of her thoughts when the man she had seen walking with Naruto earlier in the day dropped from the sky and slammed his fist into Naruto's head hard enough to send him sprawling into the road, giving him a mouthful of dirt. One thing. I asked you to do one thing, and it was nothing. How do you fail at nothing? And you? The man shouted, pointing at Hinata, scaring her into self-consciousness. I expect this kind of stupidity out of him. What's your excuse? Don't answer that, it was purely a rhetorical question. The man, whom Hinata remembered from Naruto's many stories as his adoptive sensei, continued shouting while pacing in front of them. It was then that Hinata saw the guy standing behind Ziren. She would recognize him anywhere, the red and white cloak plus the iconic hat made Hinata's heart stop cold. The Hokage himself was standing there watching her get yelled at for going on a pranking spree. Hinata was petrified as Ziren continued his monologue. She only paid slight attention as Naruto picked himself up off the ground and dusted himself off, not the least perturbed he was being yelled at. Naruto knew his sensei was more exasperated than angry. Catching Hinata's eye, Naruto glanced at the girl before giving her a mischievous wink. Hinata saw that he was forming a hand sign with one hand and grabbed his sleeve to stop him. Hinata had fun pranking with Naruto, but enough was enough. Besides, the third Hokage was really nice and didn't deserve whatever prank Naruto had planned. The blonde prankster gave Hinata a look asking, "Can I please?" But Hinata was adamant and shook her head. Naruto was disappointed but relaxed his hand anyway. This exchange did not go unnoticed by Ziren, who had stopped his tirade in order to take a breath. He cocked his head to the side for a moment before sighing. "What's your name, girl?" Ziren asked sternly. Hin and Nat T. Hinata tried stuttering out. Ziren, getting annoyed that this was taking so long, interrupted. "Back straight, chest out, head up, and enunciate." "Hinata Hyaga, sir." Hinata said without a stutter as she stood straight as a post. "Well Hinata, why did you think following an idiot like him was a good idea?" Ziren said, staring her straight in the eye. "It seemed like fun," she answered, folding back in on herself. "Fun? Really? And what do you have to say for yourself, Naruto?" It was fun. DHWACK. Naruto was once again face down in the dirt road, while Ziren's fist was hovering where Naruto's head used to be. Of course it was, Ziren said with a sigh. You know the rules. Ziren pulled out a scroll and unrolled it onto the ground, revealing multiple identical sealing matrices. I hate the fact I have to carry this thing around. Release. With a poof of smoke, a bucket with a mop, a sponge, and various cleaning solution inside, it appeared on one of the sealing matrices, quickly followed by an identical set on another matrix. Picking both sets of cleaning supplies up, Ziren deposited them into Naruto's and Hinata's hands. Now you two will go and clean up your mess and apologize to everyone you pranked. But sensei, Hinata isn't at fault, she tried to talk me out of it. Don't puny. Naruto was interrupted as Ziren held his hand up. She helped you execute your practical jokes. She's going to help you clean up, Ziren said in a tone that broke no argument. Here is the key to our hotel room at the Konoha Inn, room 106. Go there when you're done. Ziren said as he handed Naruto a key. Naruto turned to go, but before he took a step he felt a hand clamp down on his shoulder hard enough to leave a bruise. Turning, Naruto saw the face of his sensei, but instead of exasperation Naruto saw coldly simmering anger in his eyes. Oh, and Naruto, be sure to watch your step. Naruto's eyes widened and color drained from his face. Why yes sensei, Naruto said, a scared quiver in his voice. Good, now go. Ziren ordered. Naruto looked so much like his father and acted just like his mother. Hiruzen's heart clenched painfully, and the thought that he almost lost the child completely was unbearable. He stayed back and let Ziren berate him to see how Naruto reacted. In the back of his mind, the aging Hokage made a note to get a full report on all of Naruto's pranks today. After Ziren finished yelling at the two kids and sent them off to clean up their mess, Ziren released a sigh of cage-facing paperwork proportions. Who is that girl? Poor thing, her clan is going to tear her apart, Ziren said watching the two 12-year-olds walk down the street. You don't know the half of it. She's the clan heir, Hiruzen replied dourly. Ouch, Ziren flinched. Does Naruto normally find a partner in crime in the villages he visits? Hiruzen asked. No, there was something special about this one, Ziren said as rooted through the dirt of the road. She did something I didn't think was possible. Straightening, Ziren presented a piece of paper buried under the road to the third Hokage. She convinced Naruto not to pull an already set up prank. I haven't even been able to do that, and I control his food supply. Naruto's idea of a prank is to put explosive tags on a populated street. Hiruzen asked, starting to rethink his negotiations. What? No, take a closer look. It's called a paint tag, Ziren said, pointing out the differences. It releases paint instead of fire and death. This particular tag is chartreuse. Huh, he's getting more specific with his colors. He came up with them trying to learn Fuinjutsu. You taught him Fuinjutsu? Hiruzen asked, surprised. Oh lord no, my handwriting is atrocious. When he learned that the Uzumaki clan was famous for Fuinjutsu, he tried learning it in any way he could, books, pictures, word of mouth, etc. It's quite inspiring actually. Ziren said, a little pride in his voice for his apprentice. Images of teaching Naruto the secrets of his mother's clan filled Hiruzen's head. He almost lost Naruto completely, he wouldn't make the same mistake again. Turning to Ziren with a serious expression he began. He is a censor, a Jinchuriki, learned the basics of Fuinjutsu on his own, and was able to elude multiple higher-level shinobi. I believe he will make a fine addition to the village. Welcome to Konoha, he finished, extending his arm to the merchant. Thank you Lord Hokage, Ziren said, grasping the powerful Kage's hand. You'll be surprised by what travelers like us can do. The sun had set a while ago, and Naruto was tired. Who wouldn't be after cleaning all that up? Maybe next time he should use less paint. What was worse was that Hinata had to help in the cleanup despite his protests to sensei. Hinata didn't seem to mind though, in fact she seemed to be enjoying herself. That was probably because of his awesome jokes and kick-ass stories, but he didn't like to brag. Naruto had insisted on walking her home, it was the chivalrous thing to do after all. The fact that doing so delayed returning to his sensei had nothing to do with it. The pair eventually made it inside of the Hokage clan compound. When Hinata began dragging her feet, she also did not want to face her paternal figure. Thanks for helping me out with the cleanup, Hinata. Naruto tried breaking the tension that had descended on them when they had began the trek back home. And no, I also pranked those people. I should help, Hinata replied, smiling. Naruto blushed at her smile and found his tongue completely tied. The two continued in silence, but a far less awkward one than before. The nice mood, however, was short-lived as they rounded a corner and came face to face with the Hyuga guards. Lady Hinata, your father has requested your presence immediately, the one on the right said tersely. Goodbye, Naruto, Hinata said sadly. Let's hang out again sometime, Naruto smiled back as Hinata entered the compound, looking back at what was her first, and, if her father had anything to say about it, last friend. This left Naruto with only the glares of the guards as company. giving his best glare back, which wasn't very glare-why when compared to Hokage. Naruto hefted his buckets and walked towards the hotels Iron told him about. As he got closer and closer, Naruto began dragging his feet more and more. He really did not want to face sensei. Eventually he made it to the hotel and was directed towards room 106. Standing before the door, Naruto extended his senses and felt sensei's chakra on the other side waiting for him. Taking a deep breath, Naruto opened the door and stepped inside. Ziren was indeed waiting for Naruto with his arms crossed over his chest. Naruto looked into Ziren's eyes for a brief moment before becoming very interested in his shoes. Naruto could handle any of sensei's moods: exasperation, anger, apathy. But there was one mood he couldn't handle seeing in sensei's eyes: disappointment. They stood there for a solid 5 minutes before Ziren finally broke the silence and dropped the hammer Naruto was waiting for. "Are you going to tell me why you decided to use the fifth step without my permission?" Hinata needed help, so I figured the fifth step would hide us, Naruto replied, keeping his eyes down. When a reply wasn't immediately given, Naruto looked up at Ziren's face, which was a huge mistake. Naruto could see the information work its way through his sensei's brain. Ziren's eyes hardened in anger, making his show earlier that day in front of the Hokage look like a joke. "You used it on another person," Ziren shouted. It's okay. Damn it, Naruto. You could have killed her. I made sure she had enough chakra to be safe. It doesn't matter, her body could have rejected it. What the hell were you thinking? That she needed help and I could help her?" Naruto answered, trying to hold back his tears. Hearing the pain and remorse in Naruto's voice made Ziren's anger fade and his eyes to soften. Stepping forward, he placed his hands on Naruto's shoulders, causing the youth to look up with watery eyes. "Naruto, I'm proud that you would help someone you just met, but you need to think before you act," Ziren said reassuringly. "These techniques are dangerous and if you don't respect them, they won't respect you," Naruto finished the mantra. "Why did you think it was a better option than just hiding?" Ziren asked far more gently this time. "I thought it would make me look cool," Naruto whispered. "I didn't think it would be a problem because she had enough chakra." "I see," Ziren said after a minute of thought. "I taught you these techniques because I believed you would treat them with the respect they deserve, but it seems you aren't mature enough. Until I state otherwise, you are no longer allowed to use them under any circumstances." "Understood." "But sensei." "Understood. Understood. Good. There's some stew on the stove, it should still be warm. Go eat," Ziren said, showing Naruto the kitchenette. Naruto helped himself to a bowl and sat down, while Ziren continued reading a book he had open. After Naruto had scarfed down his dinner, he tried to lighten the mood. "How did the negotiations go?" Before we were interrupted by some punk causing trouble, Ziren shot a glare at Naruto. "Good. We're in. So you mean we're going to be ninja?" Naruto asked, his smile returning. "After we pass their aptitude test, yes we will. Which means that you're going to need to study," Ziren said, hefting a textbook onto the table in front of Naruto. "Get studying. Don't you think it would be better to practice more practical skills? Like kunai or kinjutsu or I don't know, baking?" Naruto asked, edging away from the book like it was diseased. "Don't try my patience, Naruto," Ziren said, his voice gaining an edge. Knowing when arguing was a bad idea, Naruto pulled the book towards him and opened it, a look of disgust on his face. The next day, after eating a healthy breakfast, despite Naruto's best efforts, the pair headed towards the Hokage tower, where their specialized test would be conducted. They were met by the Hokage himself. "Good morning," the old man said. "Good morning," Naruto greeted back. "Ahem," Ziren coughed while shooting Naruto a look. Naruto looked confused for a second before a light bulb went off in his head. He moved so that he stood right before Hiruzen and bowed his head. "I am sorry for causing so much trouble yesterday," Naruto apologized. "It's fine. Reading about your escapades was quite entertaining. You have a real flair for the dramatic, Naruto," Hiruzen laughed. "Not many appreciate the art form." "Thanks, Gramps." THWACK. "Dang it, Naruto, we practiced this, show respect," Ziren scolded Naruto. "Ha ha, it's fine, I am an old man, it's appropriate after all," Hiruzen said, laughing. "Naruto, you will be following Gecko here to your test." "I dare you will be following me," Hiruzen said as an Anbu wearing a gecko mask appeared next to him. Looking to Ziren for reassurance, Naruto followed the Anbu as Ziren followed Hiruzen. "So what will my test entail?" Ziren asked the Hokage as they walked down the street. "You obviously are intelligent, otherwise we would have found you years ago. You have extensive knowledge of the elemental nations thanks to your mercantile experience, and you can also obtain sensitive information as proven by the intelligence you gave us for your defection. All that leaves is your combat capabilities." Here we are," Hiruzen finished as they walked into a clearing in the middle of a training grounds. Ziren surveyed the battle area as he stretched and prepared for combat. "Who will I be facing in this test? An Anbu?" Ziren asked as he turned back towards Hiruzen. He found himself speechless when he saw the Hokage hand his red-white robe and his hat to a waiting Anbu, revealing a battle outfit underneath. You will be facing me, Hiruzen answered putting on his war helm. I haven't had a real fight in quite a long time. I do hope you'll give me a decent warm-up, Hiruzen smirked. Wait, let's talk Abu. Shadow Shuriken Jutsu, Hiruzen shouted as he threw a shuriken that then multiplied into 100 heading straight for his iron. Boo. The sound of young children running and laughing filtered into the empty classroom from the school grounds outside. Well, almost empty classroom, empty save for one very depressed heiress. Hinata had not been allowed out of the clan compound since the night she said goodbye to Naruto a little under a week ago. Her father was absolutely livid with her, believing she had disgraced the clan. He put her on a brutal training regime, stating that he would make a suitable fighter out of a failure like her. She was pretty sure that the only reason her father let her leave today was because he was legally bound to. She left as soon as she could, which resulted in her being over an hour early. Having nothing better to do and being tired from her father's training, Hinata laid her head down for only a few minutes. She was rudely awakened by what felt like a stampede of angry oxen. Opening her eyes, Hinata saw what looked like a pink blur and a yellow blur fighting over a black blur. Rubbing the sleep out of her eyes, Hinata got a better look at what was going on. A girl with bright pink hair was arguing with a blonde-haired girl over who got to sit next to a black-haired boy. And so began the daily ritual of Sakura and Ino fighting over who got to sit next to the class heartthrob, Sasuke. She didn't understand what they saw in him. He was cold, distant, and just plain mean. Naruto on the other hand was nice, warm, and went out of his way to help people. And she didn't know why she was comparing the two. Luckily her teachers Iruka and Shizune walked in preventing her from taking that train of thought too far. Quiet down, everyone to their seats. Iruka shouted over the noise of the excitable new Genin. As of today you are all Genin, official ninja. And we are proud of all of you, Shizune continued for Iruka. You will be going out and serving the village. We are sure all of you will make splendid ninja. Now we will split you into teams of 3 under a Jounin sensei, Iruka said picking up a clipboard on his desk. Now pay attention, Iruka said as looked at a clipboard in his hand. Now on team 1 under, and so Iruka spoke out name after name of Hinata's classmates. There was cheering, there were tears, and there was indifference as friends were separated or put into the same teams. Hinata was only barely paying attention until Team 7 under Kakashi Haddock will be Sakura Haruna, Kiba Inuzuka, and Sasuke Uchiha. Yes. Sakura yelled as she leapt out of her chair. Poor Sasuke being held back by billboard brow, Ino said loud enough for Sakura to hear. What was that pig? Sakura shouted back at Ino. You heard me, forehead. Ino replied, butting heads with Sakura. Sasuke, as per normal Sasuke, didn't even acknowledge the argument going on not even at 2 feet from him, while Kiba had his head on his desk trying to block out the sound, while his ninkin, Akamaru, was in a similar posture on Kiba's desk. Iruka was about to shout down the kids when he felt a hand on his arm. Looking over he found Shizune calmly walking towards the pair of yelling girls. Sakura, Ino, what would Lady Tsunade think if she saw 2 of her favorite students acting in such a manner? Shizune asked with a smile. The room went deathly quiet as the students imagined what their medic teacher, Tsunade, would do. With audible gulps Sakura and Ino sat down quietly and let Iruka continue calling out the teams. Are we ready to continue? Good, Iruka flipped a page on his clipboard before clearing his throat. Teammate under Kurina Yuuhi. Shino Aburam and Hinata Hyaga. You will be meeting your 3rd team member later today. Team 9 Hinata stopped paying attention as she looked over at Shino, a taller-than-average student who had spiky black hair, a grey trench coat, and a pair of sunglasses that were perpetually on his face. Meeting Hinata's eyes, Shino bowed his head in acknowledgement before bringing his attention back to the teachers. It could be worse, Hinata thought to herself. She didn't know much about the Aburam, but he seemed nice enough. What really stumped her was their 3rd teammate. That's all. We'll break for lunch before you meet your new senseis, Iruka said putting his clipboard down. I recommend you use this time to get to know your new teammates better. Oh, and congratulations Shinobi of Konoha. Hinata was getting ready to head out with her lunch when Shino appeared next to her deathly quiet. Shall we eat together? Shino asked in the patented Aburam monotone. US sure, Hinata replied, trying to keep her heartbeat controlled. Hearing her answer Shino walked outside not bothering to make sure Hinata followed. He found a shaded bench and began unpacking his lunch. Hinata followed suit and began eating when she saw Shino pull out a jar of foul-smelling brown mush and place it next to his lunch. She almost shuddered when bugs started crawling out of his sleeve, grabbed some of the brown mush, and returned to Shino's body. Almost shuddered, because shuddering in the presence of an Aburam was considered a great insult to them. What's that? Hinata asked pointing to the foul-smelling stuff. Like Hokage require nutrients not commonly found within the human diet, therefore I must supplement my intake, Shino answered without so much as an inflection. Wouldn't it be more efficient to eat it by yourself? Hinata asked trying to use bigger words to impress Shino. Yes it would be, the Aburam answered. Then why don't you eat it? Hinata asked confused. Because it tastes terrible, Shino said plainly. Hinata was surprised to hear such a normal answer from the nicknamed Bug Boy. Who do you think will be our third teammate? Hinata asked in an effort to maintain the conversation. Someone who was trained in isolation from the academy, possibly. Or someone from a Genin squad whose teammates have been promoted or killed. Shino answered. Makes sense. What about our sensei? Have you heard anything about Kei Kurenai? Hinata asked. No, but my father lent me his bingo book for today, Shino said, pulling out a book from his trench coat. Opening it, Shino began leafing through its pages looking for information. Kurenai aka, the Jinjutsu mistress, Jounin of Konoha, age. 27, height. 169.1 centimeters, weight. 54.4 kilograms, notable characteristics. Long, unkempt black hair and unusual crimson eyes, highly skilled in numerous ninjutsus, considered very dangerous. Shino finished reading. She seems skilled, Hinata said uncertainly, trying to gauge Shino's reaction. From the book, yes she does. But as is often the case, reality will most undoubtedly be different. Shino finished and continued eating his lunch. Conversation after that petered out since Hinata was too shy to carry on talking, and Shino, having nothing to say, said nothing. After they finished eating, Hinata and Shino cleaned up and made their way towards the classroom. They were two of the first and waited for the rest of class in awkward silence. The minute the bell rang signaling the end of lunch, the classroom door opened and in stepped a black-haired, red-eyed woman matching the description Shino read in the bingo book. She was wearing an unusual dress that looked like it was made of wide bandages with one sleeve longer than the other, with the usual flak jacket over her blouse. Hinata, Shino, she said, scanning the classroom. When she saw the two genin stand up, she waved them forward and left the classroom. Hinata and Shino both rushed out of the classroom following their new sensei. I would normally introduce myself, but we are missing our third teammate. Let's go meet him, she said with a reassuring smile. Hinata decided that she liked her new sensei so far. Let's test your speed, keep up. And with that, Kurenai rushed out of the school and started jumping from rooftop to rooftop with Shino and Hinata close on her heels. They finally slowed down when they landed in the middle of a training field. They were not, however, alone. An orange-clad blonde-haired teen was leaning against a tree. When he saw the newcomers, his face lit up into a dazzling smile that made Hinata's stomach flutter in a most delightful way. Hinata! Naruto yelled, waving. Before Hinata could respond, Naruto rushed forward to stand inside Hinata's personal space, not that she minded, mind you. I tried looking for you all week, but the guards in front of your house wouldn't even talk to me. They were so rude. Are you okay? We should go get some ramen after this. Wait. Naruto stopped his tirade and looked Hinata up and down. Something's different. What is it? He continued his studying of Hinata before his eyes rested on Hinata's neck. You became a ninja. That's awesome. A light bulb went off in his head. Are you on my team? Sweet. Finally coming out of her stupor, Hinata also noticed something different about Naruto. He had a Konoha forehead protector on. Why you became a ninja, Naruto? She asked confusedly. All of you come sit down, Kurenai interrupted before Naruto could answer Hinata's question. The three walked over to where Kurenai was sitting on a rock and took seats on the ground. Let's start with introducing ourselves. I'll start to let you get an idea of what to say. My name is Kurenai. I like Jinjutsu, spending time with my friend Anko, and drinking tea on a calm, bright morning. I dislike cigarettes, men who think females are weaker than males, and whoever designed these flak jackets. This comment was punctuated by Kurenai adjusting said flak jacket. My dream is to create the most powerful Jinjutsu in the elemental nations. Now who wants to go next? Kurenai finished. Ooh, me, Naruto shouted, holding his hand in the air. Very well, go ahead Naruto, Kurenai said, gesturing to Naruto. Surging to his feet, Naruto puffed out his chest and started his introduction. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, remember that because I'm going to be famous someday. I like ninjutsu, ramen, and traveling. My dislikes are the 3 minutes you need to wait to make ramen, people who don't know how to be nice, and sensei when he's angry, Naruto shuddered. My dream is to one day be the strongest swordsman ever and to make the elemental nation's road safe enough that anyone can travel anywhere safely. Naruto finished sitting back down. Thank you, Naruto. Hinata, how about you next, Kurenai said, looking at Hinata. Oh okay, Hinata got to her feet much more slowly than Naruto. My name is Hinata Hyuga. I like flour pressing, C cinnamon buns, and P playing with my Y younger sister. My dislikes are my S stutter, my subpar T taijutsu, and P people who J judge others. Hinata said, becoming depressed by her own introduction. And my dream is T to one day become S strongy enough to BBC clan head, Hinata finished weakly. What are you talking about? You're awesome, Hinata, Naruto beamed at the self-conscious girl who turned a very bright shade of red at the praise. Thanks Naruto, Hinata said with genuine thanks. Okay Shino, why don't you finish for us, Kurenai said, glad that Hinata was getting a self-esteem boost. Shino, who was observing his teammates carefully, got to his feet and began his introduction. My name is Shino Aburam. My likes include studying insects, breeding insects, and reading murder mystery novels. Why murder mystery novels? Because they are entertaining and help sharpen one's mind. My dislikes are insecticides, people who kill insects needlessly, and people who call my clan creepy. Naruto was starting to pick up pattern here. My dream is to become a competent clan head and to breed a new more powerful form of Kakechu. That is all Kurenai-sensei, Shino finished adjusting his sunglasses and sitting down. It's a pleasure to meet you all, however I am not your sensei, not yet anyway. Kurenai said drawing questioning stares from the three sitting on the ground. What do you mean Kurenai-sensei Kurenai? Naruto asked. Right now you are probationary genin. Well except for you Naruto but that's besides the point. To truly become a genin you will need to pass a test administered by your to-be jonin sensei. The true genin test as it is commonly called. Be warned this test has a 66% fail rate. Kurenai said seriously as the faces of the three genin also got serious. Now normally the test would be given tomorrow, but I don't want to waste time. If you're going to pass you will, and if you won't you won't, one night's sleep won't make a difference. Kurenai explained. What is this test? Shino asked. In this training ground I've hidden 2 coins looking like this, a ghostly image of a coin bearing the Konoha leaf symbol appeared floating over her palm. Bring me this coin before time runs out and you pass. You're all senior types it shouldn't be too hard. Her smirk said otherwise. But sensei there were only T2 coins and TH3 of us, what happens to the TH3rd P person? Hinata asked feeling very nervous about this whole scenario. They get sent back to the academy, Kurenai said in a no-nonsense tone. Hinata's face paled considerably as she tried to swallow past the lump in her throat. She didn't want to think about what her father would say if she couldn't even become a genin. Kurenai pulled out a timer and set it to 3 hours. But if none of you get a coin all of you get sent back to the academy. I suggest you get searching. Realizing that they had a very limited window to search the 3 genin darted off into the woods. Hinata stopped under a tree, if she was going to find one of those coins before the others, she would need every advantage she could get. Bringing her hands together in a seal she shouted Byakugan. The veins around her eyes bulged with chakra-infused blood as her eyes seemed to come into focus. Her Kekkei Genkai allowed her to see in 360 degrees around her, as well as over great distances and through solid objects, but its most powerful ability was to see the chakra networks of living things. And it was this final ability that made Hinata gasp sharply. When looking at a person's chakra it is quite easy to gauge their ninja rank. Civilians were like a glow-in-the-dark sticker, there was light there, but it was very faint. Genins were like candles, bright but sputtering. Chunins were torches, steady and shining. Jounins were campfires, large and powerful. Hinata had once seen the 3rd Hokage with her Byakugan, it was like standing before a massive inferno. With her telescopic vision Hinata was easily able to find Shino and Kurenai, and their chakra was as she would have assumed, a candle and a campfire, but then she saw Naruto. Stickers, candles, torches, campfires, even a raging inferno paled in comparison. Naruto shined like the sun itself. But more than just brightness there was a warmth to it as well, like a soothing summer morning. Hinata was so caught up in staring at the enigma known as Naruto that she didn't even register that he was getting closer. Well up until he was standing right in front of her waving his hand in front of her face. Hinata? Hinata you okay? Naruto asked worriedly. Something was wrong with her eyes and she was just staring into space. Blinking rapidly as the veins around her eyes relaxed, Hinata shook herself out of her stupor. I'm okay Naruto. Oh good. What was going on with your eyes it looked really weird. Naruto asked looking into her eyes causing that fluttering feeling to fight with her heart dropping at being called weird. I have a Kekkei Genkai in my eyes, Hinata answered. It allows me to see in any direction and to see through all objects. Hinata left out being able to see chakra not really knowing what to think of Naruto having more chakra than she thought a human capable of possessing. The more she learned about Naruto the more questions were raised. First was his chakra sensing capabilities, then the fact that he was able to evade higher level ninjas, he was able to become a genin of Konoha despite only arriving in the village last week and now he had superhuman levels of chakra. That sounds so cool. Naruto said looking at Hinata in awe. Why didn't you tell me earlier? The pranks we could have pulled with an ability like that would have been amazing. I see Clan D doesn't use the Byakugan unless for mission or training purposes, Hinata informed Naruto. The Byaku what? Naruto asked puzzled. My eyes they're called the Byakugan, Hinata answered. Oh, okay. Oh yeah. Hey do you want to work together? Naruto asked excitedly. But there's only T2C coins, Hinata stuttered out. Exactly, if we work together we can get the 2 coins and be on the same team, no prob, Naruto smiled. Thinking about it, that made sense. 2 was better than 1 after all. She was just afraid she would slow him down and cause him to fail. If you're okay with me. Excellent, let's go. I think I've found where one of the coins might be hidden, Naruto said, grabbing Hinata's hand and dragging her along behind him. A bit farther in the wooded training grounds, Naruto stopped and looked around, scratching his head. What makes you think there's a C coin around here? Hinata asked, looking around. I can sense a bunch of genjutsus around here. Like that tree branch there, for example, is fake. Naruto said, pointing to a perfectly placed tree branch for branch hopping. Fake, 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 partially real, fake, fake. Naruto continued, pointing to various objects around them. Ooh, maybe you can use your really cool eyes to look. Oh okay, I'll try, Hinata said, activating her taijutsu. Hinata had to tear her eyes away from Naruto's sun-like chakra and look around her. Naruto was right, a lot of what he pointed out was in fact a genjutsu. Continuing her search, Hinata did in fact find the coin. It was inside a hollow of a tree. The hollow, unfortunately, was actually pretty deep and very narrow. The hollow was too narrow to reach down, which meant that they couldn't get the coin out. Naruto tried. What if we cut it down? Naruto asked, reaching for his sword. I don't think we could cut it down in tea time, Hinata said uncertainly. The two stood there for a few minutes trying to come up with a way to get the coin out of the tree. Well, I'm coming up with a blank, Naruto sighed. I have an idea, Hinata ventured. Well, what are you waiting for, let's hear it. Naruto said, excited. I think Shino could get it out, Hinata said timidly. Really, how? Naruto asked. He can control bugs. He can probably get them to get the C coin out, Hinata answered. Naruto thought about it for a second before nodding to himself. Well, we can't get the coin out, so might as well let Shino have it. Come on, let's go find him. Finding Shino was easy, they were both put on a scouting team for a reason. What is it that you need? I am quite busy right now, Shino said tersely, well tersely for an Aburum that is. We found one of the coins, but we can't get it out. Hinata thought that maybe you could get it out, Naruto said, pointing in the direction of the tree. Why are you telling me this? Shino asked, puzzled. We can't get it out, no point in preventing someone else from passing, Naruto said simply. Thank you, Shino said after a moment of thought. He was surprised by his teammates, and he was not surprised easily. If he had found a coin he couldn't obtain, he was unlikely to inform the others of its location and would have instead kept the location to himself. Awesome, Naruto said and led Shino back to the tree. It's inside this hollow here, it's too small for either me or Hinata to reach down, but Hinata said you could get it out. Indeed, Shino said, extending his hand towards the hole in the tree. A buzzing sound filled the air and was quickly followed by a swarm of insects that flew out of Shino's sleeve and into the hollow. A moment later they returned with one of the coins that Kurenai-sensei had hidden. So you found this, Naruto? Nope, Hinata found it, Naruto replied. Shino walked over to Hinata. You found it, you keep it, Shino said, putting the coin in Hinata's hand. Hinata was dumbfounded and wasn't able to respond for a moment. And no, we couldn't get it out, so you keep it. Hinata tried handing it back to Shino, but the Aburum stalwartly refused. I would not have found it without the two of you, therefore I am in your debt. I do not like being in other people's debt. Shino said, adjusting his glasses before turning back to Naruto. What shall we do when we find the other coin? Let's cross that bridge when we get to it. Any idea where to start looking? Naruto asked. My Kakachu have detected a high concentration of chakra in that direction, Shino said, pointing. Lead the way, Naruto smiled, putting his hands behind his head. Hinata just stood there for a few moments staring at the coin. She was incredibly surprised, not only had she managed to help Naruto, but Shino had also acknowledged her and gave her his coin. He sacrificed his own promotion for hers. Hinata, you coming? Naruto shouted, bringing Hinata out of her musings. See coming? She shouted, running after her teammates. Shino was leading Naruto and Hinata through the forest when Naruto started twitching his head. Ow. 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 Naruto said, holding his hands to his temple and backpedaling before his foot hit a root and he tumbled gracelessly to the ground. Then Naruto, are you okay? Hinata asked worriedly. I think so, Naruto replied, still a bit dazed. What happened? Shino asked. I was just walking when there was like a burst of static in my head. Naruto said, rubbing his temples. Hinata, can you use your Byakugan to see what happened? Naruto asked, looking up at Hinata. Yes, sure, bringing her hands up into a hand sign and shouted, Byakugan. The whirl grew sharp as the veins around her eyes bulged and her Taijutsu activated. Scanning the trees around her, Hinata noted that there were small bits of chakra in the air that seemed to grow denser the farther into the trees they went. Not really knowing what she was seeing, Hinata explained it to Naruto and Shino. Fascinating, what exactly are we looking at? Shino asked, staring at the invisible chakra. I don't know, Hinata replied, wondering the same thing. Chakra dimmer glimmer swimmer, no shimmer. Naruto shouts, jumping to his feet. My sensei taught me about these. They're called chakra shimmers. They're meant to block out and hurt sensor types. Naruto said while rubbing his temples. They work really well. They seem quite effective, why are they not more actively used? Shino asked, sending out his Kakechu to gather information. They require a lot of chakra and will dissolve into the air after only a few hours. Naruto answered, trying to take a step forward before quickly jumping back and holding his head. You guys will have to search without me. It hurts if I go any farther. Can you mark out the perimeter of the chakra shimmer? Shino asked. That will narrow down the search area. If as you say that these things require a great deal of chakra, it reasons that such resources would not be wasted on a false lead. Hinata, let us begin searching. Nodding, Naruto took a tentative step forward before retreating. Repeating this process, Naruto dragged his foot through the dirt, forming a roughly 40-foot diameter circle. Shino meanwhile was releasing his Kakechu swarms to filter out the chakra in the air, while Hinata used her Byakugan to search the trees. It was tough going at first, the chakra shimmer made it difficult to see fine details. But as Shino's bugs ate the chakra in the air, she was able to see more clearly. Hinata saw Naruto join them in their search as the chakra shimmer faded, but she forced herself to look away and focus on finding the coin. Catching a reflection of light, Hinata found the coin wedged into a branch high up a tall tree. There it is, she shouted, catching the attention of the two boys. You sure? Naruto asked, squinting up at the tree's foliage. Why yes, Hinata said, trying to sound confident. See, can your bee bugs get it down? Hinata asked, turning to Shino. They're insects, and yes, Shino replied, lifting up his arms and releasing even more of his Kakechu. After a few minutes, Shino's insects were still not coming back down. Everything working all right? Naruto asked, starting to get impatient. It seems that the coin is wedged deeply in the wood and my Kakechu do not possess the requisite strength to pull it out. Shino replied, calling his insects back. Someone will have to climb up there and get it. I'll get it. Naruto said, stretching his arms. Are you sure why you're okay? The chakra shimmer is weak but still active. Hinata said worriedly. No, I'll go. Naruto was hiding it well, but Hinata, with her sharp chakra-enhanced eyes, could tell he was still in pain. She had been working on her tree-walking skill and was sure she could get to the top with no problem. Step back. Putting some distance between herself and the tree, Hinata took a deep breath before sprinting towards the tree. When she reached it, she leaped up and channeled chakra into her feet, adhering her to the rough bark. Taking a few steps up, she made it to the first branch. Using it, she vaulted even higher up the tree, allowing her to take a couple more steps. After repeating this a few times, Hinata found herself on the branch with the coin. She balanced herself, trying to catch her breath after her trying climb. Hinata, that was awesome. Naruto shouted up to the Hyuga, causing her to blush. Adjusting herself, Hinata found the coin that was wedged about halfway into the branch. Grabbing it, Hinata pulled, but the coin was stuck fast. Getting into a position that would allow her better leverage, Hinata once again pulled. The coin budged, but only slightly. This time she put real muscle into it. The coin came free, and with it Hinata's precarious balance was thrown off. Hinata pinwheeled her arms uselessly before she fell down the tree. Seeing Hinata falling down the tree, Naruto panicked and tried to place himself into a position to catch her, shouting something to that extent. Shino, being the calmer and more collected one, began ordering his insects to try and slow Hinata's descent. It was at this point that Hinata's fine-tuned shinobi instincts kicked in and her body began moving. Reaching out, she grabbed a branch and used it to perform a flip that landed her on a lower branch. Her momentum, however, carried her over the new branch's edge, and Hinata placed her hand and foot against the tree and applied chakra, not enough to adhere, but enough to allow her to slide down for a bit. When the chakra in her hand and foot ran out, Hinata launched herself towards the last branch on the tree and used it to perform a front flip to land safely on the ground. Naruto stood there with his mouth hanging open for a few seconds. He closed it with a click and a heavy blush dusting his cheeks. Looking away, Naruto rubbed the back of his head. That was really cool. This small yet genuine praise caused Hinata's cheeks to also turn bright red. Ahem, do we know where the coin is? Shino asked, interrupting the two. Not that he was unaware of the mood between his teammates, he was usually more considerate than this, but they were on a time limit. I think it fell around here somewhere. Naruto said, looking around on the ground. Aha, here it is, Naruto said, holding up the round piece of metal. Good, let us find Kurenai-sensei and finish this test. Shino was interrupted by the sound of a coin being flicked. Lifting up his hand, Shino caught the spinning coin in his hand. He looked at the coin for a confused second before lifting his eyes towards a grinning Naruto. What? Was the only thing he could say. Well, when I was studying for the Genin test, I had to learn about Konoha clans. You're both from major ones, right? Naruto asked before continuing without receiving an answer. Becoming a ninja is really important to your families, right? Both Hinata and Shino nodded. Well, if I fail, sensei won't be too mad. Maybe more studying, but that's fine. Plus I don't think Kurenai-sensei can send me back to the academy. I'll have to ask sensei about it. So you two can have the coins and pass. I'm sure I'll manage something. I am pretty awesome after all. Naruto finished. Shino turned the coin in his hand for a moment then another. Today was a day of constant surprises, which was in and of itself quite surprising. Shino was logical, and he was able to analyze complex situations and predict, mostly accurately, the outcome. The academy was overwhelmingly boring to him, nothing happened that he hadn't expected. Now he had the key to never having to back to that monotonous place. But there was still an itch at the back of his head. And he knew that if he didn't scratch it, it would always bother him. No, Shino said, tossing his coin onto the ground. What? Naruto asked. We are a team and we would not have been able to pass this test at all without each other's help. We either succeed together or fail together, and so I say no, Shino said. Both Hinata and Naruto stared at Shino, neither expecting that reaction from the logical boy. Hinata stared at the coin in her hands and thought about what Shino's words meant. Failing this test would no doubt cause her clan to consider her even more of a failure than she already was. What would they say if the heiress couldn't even achieve the rank of Genin? Hinata clutched the coin hard enough to hurt. The clan already thought of her as a failure, and here were two people who not only liked her, but also respected her. It shouldn't be a tough decision, and she wouldn't let it. He's right, Hinata said, tossing the coin onto the ground next to the other. We are a team. We pass or fail together. Naruto stared at his two teammates for a moment, tears running down his eyes, before he lunged forward and pulled them into a group hug. You guys are the awesomest team ever. Naruto said, causing Shino to feel uncomfortable and Hinata to experience that fluttering feeling in full force. Congratulations you three, you passed the actual test, Kurenai said, appearing out of nowhere hoping to surprise her new team. What do you mean, Kurenai-sensei? Naruto asked, not even the least bit startled at her appearance. Kurenai was disappointed that not even Hinata jumped in surprise. Sneaking up on a team full of censors was going to be tricky. Anyone can learn the basics of being a genin. But what sets apart the true shinobi is the ability to work together. Even genin can take down a jonin if they can work together well enough, Kurenai informed them. Which means that you are now no longer Team 8 and are now Team Kurenai. Wear your headbands with pride, you've earned them. Woohoo. Naruto shouted, jumping into the air. We're ninja now. I can't wait to tell sensei. Oh, we should celebrate. I know this great ramen stand we can go to. Come on Kurenai-sensei, it'll be fun. Naruto said, shaking with excitement. I'd love to, Naruto, but I need to go and report to the Hokage, Kurenai said, a little disappointed. She wanted to celebrate with her new team, but the Hokage's orders were very specific that she should report on the genin successor failure immediately. We will meet here tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning and we'll discuss how our team will operate as well as training schedules. Understood? Yes, sensei. The three new ninjas said in unison. But dismissed, and with that Kurenai disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Come on, let's go get ramen, Naruto said, grabbing his new teammates' hands to drag them off. Shino, not being big on physical contact, managed to avoid being grabbed by Naruto this time. Hinata was not so lucky, or maybe she was luckier. Naruto made her feel so many different confusing emotions. And so Naruto pulled a blushing Hinata along with him toward Ichiraku, with an exasperated Shino trailing the two. Kurenai walked into the Hokage tower and approached the secretary on duty. Ms. Yahi, the Hokage asked that you be sent immediately to him when you arrived. Thank you, Kurenai said as she headed towards the Lord Third's office. Walking in, she saw the Hokage sitting at his desk. Welcome Kurenai, Hiruzen said without looking up. Please close the door and take a seat. Closing the door, which caused the silencing seals in the walls to activate, Kurenai sat opposite the aging shinobi. How did your team do? The Hokage asked once Kurenai got comfortable. I am glad to tell you that they passed with flying colors. Although might I ask why you had me give the test today? And why I had to report right after instead of with the other jounin senseis? Kurenai asked respectfully. Sighing, Hiruzen pulled out his pipe and started packing tobacco into it. Kurenai, there are a few things you need to know about one of your students. Naruto, Hinata and Shino walked out of Ichiraku's filled with delicious noodles. Shino was a little perturbed that a human being could consume that much ramen in a single sitting. Although Hinata hadn't eaten as much as Naruto, it was still surprising to see her eat the quantity that she did. Taking stock of where in Konoha he was, Shino turned to say farewell to his new teammates. Until tomorrow. Good night. Good night Shino, turning. Naruto and Hinata walked one way and Shino the other. So how did you join the village? Hinata finally asked the question that had been at the forefront of her thoughts the entire day. I don't really know. Sensei handles all the technical stuff. Sorry I didn't tell you last time. Sensei wanted it kept secret until after the fact. That's fine, I understand. Also Naruto had stopped walking and was rubbing the back of his head while looking everywhere except at Hinata, who was looking questioningly at the boy. She squeaked in surprise when he suddenly bowed in front of her. I'm sorry, Naruto said keeping his head bowed. Hinata was stunned at his declaration and didn't know how to respond. Mostly because she didn't understand what he was apologizing for. Why are you apologizing? Seemed to be the only logical response. Well, you remember that technique I used to hide us from that one guy? You know that guy that was chasing you? Hinata did remember. The experience had been so incredibly surreal that there was no way she could forget it. What about it? My sensei found out I used it and got really mad at me. Apparently that technique was way more dangerous than I thought. Naruto sat keeping his head bowed. I know nothing happened, but that's no excuse for putting you in unnecessary danger. I'm sorry. But like you said nothing happened so it's okay, Hinata answered uncertainly. No. I was stupid. I could have done something unforgivable. Naruto shouted fighting back tears. Hinata stood there awkwardly not knowing what to do. Tentatively she reached out and placed her hand on Naruto's shoulder. Then nothing happened so it's fine, Hinata tried consoling the orange-clad boy. His head, however, remained bowed. I forgive you. Finally Naruto looked up, eyes moist with tears, really? Wasn't hurt and why you learned your lesson. So I forgive you. A small smile finally came across Naruto's face as a weight seemed to lift from his shoulders. You really are the best Hina. Hina. Hinata stuttered out and, realizing she was still touching Naruto's shoulder, quickly pulled her hand back even as her face heated up. Friends give each other nicknames, so I gave you one. Unless you don't like it though. Naruto said starting to look unsure of himself. It's fine, Hinata said softly pressing her fingers together. Then it's alright if I call you Hina. But it's kinda embarrassing. Hinata replied wondering when she started pressing her fingers together. Naruto crossed his arms with a look of concentration on his face. What if I only call you that when we're alone? Naruto asked. Hinata blushed furiously, that was even more embarrassing, but for different reasons. Having no other answer Hinata finally responded, okay. Come on Hina let's go, Naruto started walking again, a giant megawatt smile on his face. More of Hinata's blood rushed to her face and her stomach started fluttering when he called her that. She really needed to ask someone about this. Shino had finally arrived at his clan compound and wound his way through its streets until he finally arrived at his house. Stepping into the entryway Shino shrugged off his trench and took off his shoes before moving towards the living room. Inside Shino found his father, Shibi. You were absent for the weekly clan dinner, Shibi said turning towards his son. I apologize father, I was. Oh leave him alone Shibi, he was spending time with his new friends. He can afford to miss one stuffy old clan dinner. A woman said walking into the room carting a tea tray. She had long black hair done into a braid and soft hazel eyes. This woman was Shino's mother, Rebecca, an entomologist born in the land of lightning. She had fallen in love with the Aburum's Kakacha insects and later with the Aburum's clan heir Shibi. Teammates, Shino corrected his mother before taking a seat opposite his father. Yay. Here I made some tea, Rebecca said placing the tray on the coffee table and pouring tea for all three of them before sitting next to her husband. Shino and Shibi both started spooning sugar into their teas and continued until Rebecca finally slapped their hands to get them to stop. Who is your Jonin sensei? Shibi asked taking a sip of his now very sweet tea. Kurina Yuuhi. She is quite skilled you would do well to heat her, Shibi said, trying to scoop more sugar into his tea before being stopped by his wife. Yes and your new friends. Rebecca probed. Teammates, Shibi corrected, his wife only waved him off. My first teammate is Hinata Hyuga, Shino said. A girl, is she CUT? Rebecca asked leaning forward. Objectively speaking she would be considered cute, yes. Before you get your hopes up mother, she is highly enamored with my third teammate. Shino answered. Love amongst teammates, how scandalous. Your mother's teasings aside, do you think such feelings will interfere with your team dynamic? It is hard to tell at this moment, but I am hoping that things will not become awkward, but that seems difficult as my third teammate reciprocates Hinata's feelings to some degree. Whether either of the pair are aware of the other's feelings or even their own is another matter entirely. Father, do you still have that book analyzing interpersonal signals? I wish to go over it again. Shino asked pouring himself more tea and unsuccessfully sneaking in more sugar. The one authored by Shirahara. Yes, I do have it in my library. I can give it to you at breakfast tomorrow morning. Thank you father. Enough, tell us about your other friend, Rebecca said, trying to bring the conversation back around. Teammate, Shino corrected. My third teammate is unusual. Shino said trying to figure out how to describe the orange-clad boy. Well start with his name, Shino's mother prodded. Naruto Uzumaki. Shibi started at this and spilled a drop of tea down the side of his cup, which he quickly wiped away. For an Aburum, however, he might as well have spit his drink across the room. You know of him father? I know of the name, but was unaware that he was inside the village. Yes, he was adopted at the age of 4 by a traveling merchant and has been on the road since. How do you know of him? I know of him due to his relation to a mission I participated in some time ago. I cannot elaborate further. Adopted, you say? If Shino didn't know his father better, he would have thought he sounded self-satisfied. Intriguing. What is the boy like? Rebecca asked. The best word I can use to describe him is bright. He is cheerful and smiles without a need to. I am concerned that he is not prepared for the profession he has chosen. Perhaps the reason is because he grew up outside a hidden village. Sometimes, Shino, the life of a shinobi is chosen for you. Shibi said solemnly. What do you mean, father? That is all I can say on this matter. Please continue with your assessment of your teammates. Very intriguing. As much as I do not believe Naruto is ready to face the reality of what it means to be a shinobi, it is due to his kindness that I was able to infer the actual purpose of the true Genin test administered to us today. How do you think your team will fare in future endeavors? I need more data before I can make a more educated prediction. I shall have to watch my teammates closely. Friends, Rebecca corrected. Shino and Shibi sighed in defeat. It was a calm and peaceful morning in the village hidden in the leaves. The sun was rising, bakers were preparing their bread, shop owners were sweeping their stoops, and lines were reaching out the door at the coffee shop. All was peaceful except for an orange blur sprinting along Konoha's rooftops at a breakneck pace. More specifically, an orange blur that was running late. Spotting his team waiting for him in the training grounds, Naruto put on a final burst of speed. Unfortunately, he was in a forest and there were roots rather close to the surface. Naruto's foot hit one of these roots and put him flat on his face. But like a wise physicist once said, a body in motion tends to stay in motion, and Naruto was made intimately aware of this law of physics as he slid along the rough ground, only to stop in front of his teammates. Hey, are you alright, Naruto? Hinata asked worriedly, only to be answered by an electronic beeping sound. Keeping his head still on the ground, Naruto lifted his fist into the air and declared in a muffled voice, "Mated. You're cutting it close, Uzumaki," Kurenai said sternly. Punctuality is very important for a shinobi. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. Sorry Kurenai-sensei, Naruto apologized as Hinata helped him to his feet. Now that everyone is here, we can start. You three have been grouped together to form a team specialized in scouting. With Shino's Kakecha, Hinata's Byakugan, and Naruto's sensory capabilities, you three are perfect for gathering information. That is why your test yesterday focused more on searching than on combat. As such, today I will test your fighting skills. Any questions? No. Good. Uzumaki, you're up. Yes, Kurenai-sensei. Naruto shouted, pulling out a storage scroll. Rolling it out, he placed his hands on the matrix and applied chakra, causing smoke to surround him. The other three present looked on in curiosity to see what Naruto was doing. The smoke cleared, showing Naruto wrapping a long piece of leather around the blade of his sword. What? Naruto asked when he noticed everyone watching him. I don't want to accidentally hurt anyone, do I? Kurenai took this time to analyze Naruto's sword. It was a simple one-edged 3-foot blade. It didn't possess any ornamentation whatsoever. It was a weapon designed to be used, not looked at. Naruto finally finished patting his blade and got to his feet, sword gripped tight. Whenever you're ready, Kurenai-sensei. Naruto shouts, getting into a battle stance. Very well, Uzumaki, begin. Immediately Naruto threw down a smoke ball, obscuring himself from Kurenai's vision. A flurry of shuriken flew out of the smoke cloud towards Kurenai. She sidestepped the whirling pieces of sharpened metal easily, only for multiple kunai to exit the cloud, heading straight for her head. Producing her own kunai, Kurenai blocked the majority of the knives and dodged the rest. As the smoke cloud began clearing, 3 Narutos rushed out and moved to flank Kurenai. Clones, huh? At least he knows how to use basic jutsus. Unable to determine which Naruto was the real one, Kurenai ran through hand signs lightning quick and sent a genjutsu at one of the Narutos. Nothing fancy, just one that would affect the victim's balance. When he stumbled, Kurenai smirked, having already found the real one. Moving quickly, Kurenai brought her elbow into Naruto's stomach, only for him to vanish in a puff of smoke. So surprised by this turn of events, Kurenai only noticed the other 2 Narutos when one of them was swinging his sword at her head. Kurenai managed to angle herself to narrowly avoid the attack. Using the kunai in her hand, she managed to parry the second Naruto's swing. Unfortunately, the second Naruto followed up his swing by body-checking Kurenai into the first Naruto's waiting arms. But Kurenai held. Naruto brought his sword back around and swung hard. Kurenai jumped up, causing the Naruto that was holding her to lean back. The maneuver was so surprising that the first Naruto was unable to stop his swing, hitting the second Naruto hard. The Naruto that was holding Kurenai poofed out of existence as Kurenai predicted. Using her momentum, Kurenai placed her shins on either side of Naruto's head and twisted, sending him sprawling. Naruto quickly jumped back to his feet and was ready to leap back into battle. He was stopped short, however, by Kurenai holding up her hand. That's enough, Uzumaki. Yes, Kurenai-sensei, Naruto said, holding his sword at his side in a relaxed posture. Where did you learn the shadow clone jutsu? Sensei taught it to me. It's a dangerous technique that requires a lot of chakra to use. You need to be careful with it. Don't worry Kurenai-sensei, I only made 2. Kurenai's eye twitched at the way Naruto said only. How many can you make? 50, sensei won't let me try to make any more. F50. Kurenai was stunned, she could maybe make 4 shadow clones, but would be almost useless afterwards. That brings up a question I have been puzzling over since yesterday's test. Shino said, walking up to the pair, Hinata at his side. You seem to possess an inordinate amount of chakra for one of our age, and I have meant to ask how. Hinata had also been wondering, but was far too shy to ask. At this seemingly innocent question Naruto started looking incredibly uncomfortable. His eyes started darting here and there as though looking for an answer, while sweat started running down his face. He is a member of the almost extinct Uzumaki clan. They were known for their mastery of Fuinjutsu and for having higher than normal chakra reserves. Kurenai answered for Naruto. Why yay, I'm an Uzumaki. In case you haven't noticed, we're pretty awesome, Naruto said, rubbing his finger underneath his nose. Naruto was many things, a prankster, a ramen connoisseur, even a competent swordsman, but a convincing liar he was not. Shino knew about the Uzumaki clan, of course, but from what he understood, Naruto had more chakra than what was normal for an Uzumaki adult, much less a child. He did not, however, push the issue since the question was obviously a tender spot for his teammate. He would bide his time and sate his curiosity at some future point. Now that question has been answered, Shino, you're up next. Kurenai said, clapping her hands together, getting the attention of her genins. Very well sensei, Shino answered, assuming a combat stance. Naruto and Hinata both withdrew to a safe distance. Before we begin sensei, how did you know that the Naruto that was holding you was a clone? Shino asked. Uzumaki's swing would have hurt me and the clone holding me had it connected. He may be reckless, but I'd like to believe he's not stupid. Kurenai answered, pulling out a kunai. Interesting, and why didn't you try to use a more complex genjutsu on him? His sensory capabilities make most genjutsus useless, Kurenai answered, smirking. I think I've given your swarms enough time to get into position, don't you think? The grass surrounding the Jonin burst into life as Kakechu flew into the air attacking Kurenai. She fought valiantly but was inevitably engulfed by the Abiram swarms. Shino maintained his concentration, keeping his insects on the offensive up till the point that Kurenai tapped him on the shoulder from behind. Not bad, Shino, watch out for genjutsus in the future though. Shino called off his insects and discovered that they were, in fact, attacking nothing. He then began going back over the battle, trying to figure out when he was placed under the illusion. Kurenai-sensei, when were you able to place me under your genjutsu? You're not the only one who can mask actions behind words, Shino. Hinata, now you. Oh okay sensei, Hinata replied nervously. She moved into position and assumed a gentle fist stance, her clan's specialty. She was incredibly nervous to fight in front of her teammates. She didn't think she was as skilled in close quarters combat as Naruto, nor as deceptive as Shino, and wasn't feeling particularly confident at the moment. She just wished not to embarrass herself too much in front of Naruto and Shino. She didn't want to embarrass herself in front of Naruto and Shino. It's okay Hinata, calm down and come at me when you're ready, Kurenai told the obviously nervous Genin. Nodding, Hinata ran through various hand signs before finally shouting Byakugan. Instantly the veins around her eyes bulged and her pupils almost became visible. The range of her vision increased dramatically and the chakra network of the people around her became visible. She analyzed Kurenai's stance and started thinking up plans of attack. However, every method she came up with was discarded for one reason or another. She began despairing that she wouldn't be able to even start the spar. Her father was probably right and she was "Oh Hinata!" Naruto yelled. Hinata was able to see Naruto cheer for her without moving her head due to her taijutsu. Which was lucky because that short and simple encouragement caused her to blush. Bringing her thoughts back to the situation at hand, Hinata realized that she would just have to do her best and see what happened. With little forewarning, Hinata charged her Jonin sensei chakra-laced palm leading. Kurenai managed to dodge the first strike easily, but Hinata stepped in closer and brought her other hand in for a second strike. Kurenai managed to block the attack by striking Hinata's forearm and pushing her hand away. The battle continued in this manner for another couple of minutes, with Hinata attacking and Kurenai dodging or blocking the strikes. Hinata's confidence waned with each missed attack until she was barely putting effort into her taijutsu forms. Kurenai, seeing this, finally ended the spar. That's enough Hinata, I have enough information for now. That was a cool fighting style you were using, what was it? Naruto asked Hinata as he walked over to her. It's called the G gentle fist style. It's only used by my C clan. Hinata answered. What does the chakra in your palms do? It didn't feel like the kind used to make your attack stronger. I can send the CH chakra into my opponent's body and do D damage internally. Ooh, that's so awesome. That's enough Uzumaki. Hinata is tired from the spar, let her rest. Kurenai interrupted the two kids. He wasn't be both I am mean it, wasn't Hinata trailed off not really being bothered by Naruto. Now I have a good idea of what areas you three need training in. I'll come up with a training regimen for tomorrow morning. For now let's head over to the Hokage's tower and begin missions. Kurenai finished. The three genin followed Kurenai out of the training grounds and into Konoha's streets. I have often wondered what purpose these D-rank missions serve. I have asked my father but found his answers intentionally vague. Shino asked Kurenai. Well, D-rank missions offer a moderate amount of income to Konoha. They are a good way for people to get help with chores they either don't have the time for or can't due to age or illness. And it helps build teamwork among brand new teams without risk of physical harm to the students. At least that's what the council tells us. I think the real reason is because the council is sadistic. Don't tell anyone I said that. I wonder why father didn't just say that. Something about a rite of passage or some such nonsense, I think. The older generations get a kick out of tormenting youngsters. While this conversation was going on, a similar yet different conversation was happening a couple steps behind Shino and Kurenai. What kind of missions do you think will be going on? Naruto asked Hinata. I don't know, she had wanted to ask her clansman that exact question, but was too nervous to actually ask. I asked sensei what we were going to be doing, but his answer scares me. What did he say? Nothing. He just started laughing. Then he got really depressed for some reason. It was really weird. Conversation stopped as the four entered into the Hokage tower to accept their first mission. The Hokage will see you in a moment, he is currently meeting another genin team. The receptionist told them. Nodding, Kurenai shepherded her team off to the side to wait. A minute later the door to the Hokage's office opened and teammate was assaulted by youth. Two green blurs shot past the team leaving Naruto and Hinata stunned, Shino perturbed, and Kurenai face palming. Geez. Lee. Sensei. Slow down and wait for us. A girl in a pink blouse and wearing her hair up in a twin bun shouted stepping out of the office. Sai, come on Niji, let's get going. Following the girl was a boy with long brown hair wearing beige clothing with eyes just like Hinata's, wide and pupilless. The only difference was where Hinata's eyes held a soft kindness, this boy's eyes were hard and cruel. Naruto was about to ask Hinata if he was part of her clan when he felt Hinata grab onto his sleeve tightly. Her chakra was flaring wildly with multiple competing emotions. It didn't help when the kid named Niji noticed Hinata and shot her a glare filled with such hatred and malice that Naruto subconsciously started reaching for his sword. Naruto was about to draw his weapon when one of the green blurs from before returned. What's the hold up, Tenten, Niji? Spoke a man with black hair done in a bowl cut and with a heavily defined facial structure. The most noticeable feature about him, though, was the bright green jumpsuit that covered him from neck to toe. It made Naruto's choice of clothing look downright fashionable. Are your fires of youth not burning brightly enough? Let us stoke our flames by serving our wonderful village. Onward. The man then put a hand on the girl's, whose name was revealed to be Tenten, shoulder and his other on Niji's. He then led them out of the building, but not before sharing a meaningful look with Kurenai. Who was that? Shino asked after a moment of silence. Come on, let's get a mission. Kurenai said walking into the now vacated office. Are you okay, Hina? Naruto asked worriedly, trying to meet her eyes. This was made difficult by the fact she was stoically looking down and refused to look up. Her hand still maintaining its death grip on Naruto's sleeve. I'm okay, Hinata stuttered out, finally letting go of Naruto. You sure? Naruto asked, still trying to make eye contact. Why yes, she said, turning and walking into the Hokage's office. Naruto could only follow. Team Kurenai here for your first mission. Hiruzen asked from behind his desk. The mood was unusually tense for a team receiving their first D-rank mission. Although considering who just walked out of his office he shouldn't be surprised. Hey Gramps, we're here for our first awesome ninja mission. Naruto shouted. Uzumaki. Show respect to your Kage. Kurenai shouted, forgetting herself for a moment, so surprised by the Jinchuriki's audacity. Hiruzen chuckled to himself, just like his mother. Naruto couldn't seem to allow a tense atmosphere to last too long. It's okay Kurenai, we talked about this before. I told him it was okay. As you say, Lord Hokage, Kurenai said, bowing, feeling embarrassed. Now how about a nice D-rank mission for your genin? Hiruzen asked, pulling out a scroll. Woohoo. Awesome ninja mission. Naruto grinned at his teammates, especially Hinata. Woohoo. Awesome ninja mission. Naruto shouted, dragging a dripping paintbrush along an old fence. Why do you insist on continuously shouting that phrase? Shino asked from the other side of the fence, paintbrush in hand. I need to keep my spirits up somehow, Shino. And you believe that the most efficient way of accomplishing this is to shout the same phrase over and over again? Have you ever shouted a phrase over and over again? It's fun. And Aburam expresses themselves in more civilized ways. Boy, you calling me unsoapy, unsoci, you unsophisticated. Hinata joined into the conversation, supplying the word Naruto was looking for. Yay, unsophisticated. Thanks Hinata. I said nothing of the sort. It was you who interpreted my words in such a way. Perhaps there is a reason why. Although the other two couldn't see it, Shino was smiling, enjoying the back and forth. Yeah, well, I'm going to talk to Hinata and come up with a sophisticated comeback. Give me a minute. Naruto said, walking over to the paint can that was next to his female teammate. Said girl was still having trouble looking up ever since the encounter with that Niji person. Unsophisticated was the longest sequence of syllables she had managed to string together since then. Who was he? Naruto asked softly so only she could hear. If you don't want to answer, that's fine. I just thought that maybe. Naruto trailed off when Hinata didn't look up at him. He was about to go back to painting when, he's my older cousin, Hinata finally said. I don't really want to talk about it alright now. Let's just finish painting. Naruto didn't like this Niji guy one bit. Hinata was the nicest person he had ever met and he had traveled to every country in the elemental nations. Anyone who would send a death glare her way was not right in the head. Hinata was his teammate and, dang it, he wasn't going to let one of his teammates be depressed. That was when he came up with a rather fun plan to put a smile back on her face. Hey Hinata, I need your help with something, Naruto said, a mischievous glint entering his eyes. What? Hinata asked. The last time she had seen Naruto's eyes like that, she found herself on the run from multiple Chunin level shinobi, but then again the last time she had seen that look, she had had more fun than she could remember having. Naruto leaned forward and whispered into Hinata's ear. And no, we'll get in trouble, Hinata said, feeling flustered. Come on Hinata, it'll be fun. But I'll buy you a cinnamon roll, Naruto said pleadingly. A cinnamon roll did sound good right about now, and what Naruto had planned did sound fun. Maybe her father was right and Naruto was a bad influence on her. But then again, cinnamon rolls. Oh okay. Shino stood up from his painting and turned towards his teammate. Yes Hinata. I was wondering if you. Naruto shouted, launching himself from his hiding place, paintbrush leading. Shino however simply sidestepped the awkward attack and stuck his foot out, tripping Naruto. After hearing about your pranking spree when you first entered the village, I must admit to disappointment if this was the best you could do. Shino said, adjusting his glasses and turning back towards Hinata. And Hinata, that was a poor attempt at splat. Shino found himself stunned by the fact that his face was now covered by paint. Wiping the paint from his glasses revealed Hinata with a paintbrush in hand trying to hold in her giggles. The thrill of disobeying her father and doing something her clan frowns upon was making her feel giddy. Thoughts of the encounter with her cousin mostly forgotten. Hinata. Shino asked, trying to wipe the paint from his face. Sorry Shino, Hinata managed to get out before finally succumbing to her giggles. I'm the prank king, you'll never see them coming. Naruto smiled proudly. How's that for unsophisticated? Still very much so, Shino said, eyeing Naruto up and down. Shino's hand holding his paintbrush twitched when, splat, it was Naruto's turn to be stunned as Hinata had turned and smacked him with her paintbrush. Oh, that's it, you're getting it now. Naruto shouted, holding his paintbrush like a sword. Hinata responded, holding her brush in front of her defensively. Attack. Naruto moved forward. That's enough Uzumaki. Kurenai said, sternly bopping Naruto on his head. That's enough, back to work. Kurenai would have stepped in sooner, but it was nice to see Hinata cheer up after what happened with her cousin. We're shinobi of the leaf, now let's act like it. Yes Kurenai-sensei, the trio said in unison before going back to the fence. The sun was beginning to set as Naruto, Hinata, and Shino were walking down the street after Kurenai had dismissed them. Their D-rank missions for the day had included fence painting, helping an elderly couple move furniture, and weeding a garden. Man, I am hungry, let's go to Ichiraku and get some ramen, Naruto said, rubbing his stomach. You seem to have an unhealthy obsession with your food preferences, Shino said, adjusting his glasses. But ramen is the food of the gods, Naruto defended his favorite meal. We could easily eat it every day and never grow tired of its amazingness. I believe, quite firmly, that you could most easily accomplish such a feat. Those of us who actually take health seriously and wish to see our next birthday could not. Shino deadpanned. Come on, it's good, Naruto pleaded. Let's do rock, paper, scissors to see where we go to eat. You and Naruto, you promised me a cinnamon roll, remember? Hinata asked while pushing her index fingers together. Oh yeah, I did, didn't I? Naruto said, rubbing his chin. Okay, do you know where we can get some good ones? Hinata nodded and pointed down a side street. There's a bee bakery on Greenleaf Road. Yes, I know the one, they make good sugar cookies. Well anyway, it is a better alternative to ramen twice in a row, Shino said, walking in the direction Hinata pointed in. Hinata was about to follow when she felt a hand on her shoulder. Turning, she found Naruto with an unusually serious look on his face. Hey Hina, I know you don't want to talk about your cousin, but if you ever do, I just wanted to say that I'll be willing to listen whenever you want to say anything, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head, a heavy blush dusting his face. The same kind of blush that was now filling Hinata's cheeks. That fuzzy feeling Hinata got from time to time from Naruto returned with a vengeance. Oh okay, was all she could say. On, I did promise you a cinnamon roll. Thank you. Hinata whispered so quietly that Naruto didn't hear, or so she thought. Naruto's small yet genuine smile spoke otherwise. Walking into the hotel room holding a cupcake, Naruto was greeted by the sounds Ziren cursing out a cat. Curious, Naruto walked over to the bathroom and looked in. Ziren was standing in front of the mirror rubbing alcohol on multiple small cuts all over his face. You okay, sensei? Naruto asked. I was attacked by a demon cat, he said bitterly, wincing at the touch of the wet cotton ball. The cat? Demon cat? I had to catch the fire daimyo's wife's cat as part of a D-rank mission. You have to do D-rank missions. Since I am technically a defector, I'm on probation. So yeah, I have to do bloody D-rank mission until the Hokage says otherwise. Ziren continued his rant under his breath, cleaning his wounds. I brought you a cupcake, Naruto said, holding up the pastry. Thanks, Ziren said, taking the treat and sitting sewn on his hotel bed. Naruto sat across from him on the other bed. Ziren took a bite out of the mini cake and enjoyed it for a minute before bringing his attention back to his apprentice. So what do you want? I want you to dig up some dirt on somebody for me. Ziren examined Naruto for a moment, considering the request. It must be very important. Naruto didn't even feign offense at being called out on the obvious bribe. He licked his fingers free of crumbs, buying him time to word his answer. First, don't say dig up some dirt, it sounds unprofessional. Second, who am I collecting intelligence on? Niji Hyaga, Hinata's cousin. Hyaga, huh? And why are you so interested in him? My team met him earlier today and he was really angry at Hinata. His chakra was filled with so much hate and anger I almost drew my sword on him. Did you see his forehead? He was wearing his forehead protector. Why? Did you read that book I gave you on the clans of Konoha? I skimmed it. Ziren glared at that answer, but Naruto didn't even blink or shrink away. This Niji issue was really eating at him. Not surprising, when he was at that age the lengths he went to for the girl he liked were, shall we say, impressive. The Hyuga are split into two groups, the main branch and the side branch. The side branch are branded with a special seal that when they die destroys their brain and optic nerves, rendering their eyes useless. Naruto nodded, paying more attention to Ziren's lecture than he ever had before. Sounds like a good idea to prevent people from hunting their clan for their eyes. The problem, however, is the fact that these seals can be remotely activated by the main branch. Wait, Naruto's eyes widened in understanding. That means that the main branch can kill off side branch members with little to no thought. Ziren nodded gravely. That's terrible. Why does the Hokage allow that? Naruto asked, outraged. It's part of the Konoha charter. The village was originally a loose coalition of wandering clans that decided to work together, and the Hokage was a position that primarily handled inter-clan disputes. Inter-clan disputes were, and still are, settled by whatever ruling body governs the clan. Ziren finished explaining, feeling very tired all of a sudden. Most likely this Niji kid is projecting his hatred of the main branch onto Hinata as a scapegoat. I don't think so. His hatred felt more personal than that. Maybe Hinata insulted him. Naruto didn't even dignify that with a response. Is he Hinata's cousin or is he her cousin? Huh? Well, technically all members of a clan are related, right? So they are all technically cousins. Is Niji her actual cousin or her clansman? Well, that's what I want you to find out for me. Naruto said. Ziren sighed, not really having the energy to explain these things to Naruto. Naruto, we are in a really tenuous position here in Konoha. We can't just go and piss off the most influential clan in the village. If you want to know more, ask Hinata. I did ask Hinata, but she just pushed me away, Naruto said dejectedly. So I figured you could help me instead. Don't you always say the underhanded method is usually the easiest? Well, that is true, using underhanded methods is not always the best idea. How do you think Hinata would feel if she found out you went behind her back on this? How would you feel if I told Hinata about your secret? Naruto had the good grace to actually feel and look ashamed for this idea. What you need to do is get Hinata to trust you enough to tell you herself. Sure, it'll take longer, but trust me on this one, Naruto, it'll be well worth it in the long run. Naruto nodded, processing his sensei's words. Go eat some dinner. You still need to work on your meditation and sword forms before bed. Yes, sensei. Shino answered the knock at his front door early one morning to reveal Kurenai standing on his front stoop. Good morning, Shino. Good morning, Kurenai-sensei, please come in. Shino stepped aside, letting Kurenai enter his house. My father is waiting, right this way. Shino said, leading the Jonin to the living room. Shibi Abiram stood up when Kurenai walked into the room, Mizuuhi at his pleasure. Shibi said, extending his hand. The pleasure is mine, Lord Abiram, thank you for meeting me on such short notice. It is no matter, you are responsible for teaching my son. Meeting with you is the least I can do to ensure his continued success. Please sit down. Shino, please bring some tea for our guest. Yes, father. Shino said, turning and leaving the room. Kurenai was a little unnerved at the prospect of being in the house of the Aburum's clan head. But more than that, she had never seen an Aburum without their trademark trench coats. Perhaps she had been listening to too many rumors about how the insect-using clan acted, leading to her own theories about their coats and glasses, but for the most part they were very normal. The only exception to this being the occasional Kakacha that would crawl along their arms or faces. My wife is unable to meet with you today. She has been experimenting with a sub-breed of Kakacha, and they have gestated more quickly than anticipated, leading to her spending the last few days isolated in the clan hatchery. She would like to extend her apologies and an invitation to lunch when her schedule has normalized. Tell Dr. Aburum that no apologies are necessary and that I would love to have lunch with her. I shall relay the message to her, but she will insist that you refer to her as Rebecca. Now, what are your future plans concerning my son's training? I will focus my team on chakra control to begin with, as well as to teach them how to properly act as scouts. Afterwards I will teach them what I know about Jinjutsu. Unfortunately, I don't believe any of my genin have the aptitude to make Jinjutsu a main part of their arsenal, so the training will mostly focus on knowing when they're under an illusion and how to dispel them. Due to their skills as sensor-type shinobi, I don't think I will spend very much time on this subject. Afterwards I will then focus on their ninjutsu skills with a heavier focus on elemental affinities. It does not sound as though you intend to train your team into jutsu. Why is that? I do not believe I could help my team very much in that regard, since 2 of my students will receive more specialized and in-depth training from elsewhere. That, and I do not know of any taijutsu styles that will work well with Aburum techniques. We have many different styles that synergize well with our comrades. I believe your analysis of your team thus far is thorough. Spivey said, pausing for a moment, looking as though he was deciding if he should ask his next question. I am aware that one of Shino's teammates is a child by the name of Naruto Uzumaki. Are you aware? Yes. Kurenai said, seriously, not breaking eye contact with Shibe. And what do you make of the Lord Hokage's decision regarding this most unusual situation we are finding ourselves in? I can only trust in the Hokage's judgment regarding this matter. Kurenai said stiffly. Shibe continued to watch Kurenai, analyzing her reactions. And what do you make of this Siren Adair that has adopted him? I cannot say as I have not yet met him. But we are meeting to discuss your son, are we not? Of course. Do you have any inquiries about his abilities? Does he have any skills in elemental ninjutsu? At that moment Shino walked back into the room, a tea tray in hand. He set it down and poured tea for himself, his father, and Kurenai. Where is the sugar? Shibe asked, looking over the tray. I believe mother has hidden it. Shino replied, sitting next to his father. As for your inquiry, Kurenai-sensei, I do not know any elemental ninjutsu, nor do I know what my elemental affinity is. Why, you may ask? Because the majority of the Aburum clan possess a fire affinity. And as you can imagine, fire ninjutsu does not mix well with Aburum techniques. Still, having a fire technique or two might come in handy in the future. Kurenai replied, taking a sip of her drink. True, versatility is an oft-ignored trait that a shinobi should possess. Shibe told his son. What will Shino's schedule look like? I wish to start early on mornings, meeting at 7 am. We will do team training and then afterwards we will do missions. I will release the team at around 3 or 4 depending on what we were working on that day. Is that acceptable to you? Insects are most active during the dusk hours, which is when I train Shino. Your plans are well thought out. I have a question, Kurenai-sensei. Shino asked. What's that, Shino? When do you think we will take a C-rank mission? When I think you're ready. Don't worry, Lord Aburum, I will let you know when I think that is. I thank you for your discretion. Shibe said. Why so impatient, Shino? Don't you like D-rank missions? Kurenai asked sweetly. Shino just adjusted his glasses. I thank you for your time, Lord Aburum, but I believe Shino and I must get to the training grounds. Otherwise Hinata and Uzumaki will start wondering what's happened to us. Of course, punctuality is important. Shibe said, standing up and extending his hand towards Kurenai. Said Jonin stood up and accepted Shibe's handshake. I leave my son in your hands. I will do my best not to disappoint. Hinata had woken up early as she did every day so that she could leave the clan compound before the majority of her cousins began their daily activity. Having left much earlier than she needed to, Hinata wandered around the village for a while until she finally headed towards the training grounds, though she still arrived an hour early. She was sitting underneath a tree waiting for half an hour when morning Hina. Naruto shouted, walking into the clearing. Morning, Naruto, Hinata greeted her overly enthusiastic teammate. Why, you're early this morning, she said as Naruto approached her. Really? Aren't we supposed to be meeting right now? Naruto asked. Kurenai-sensei is meeting with SH Shino's parents. Didn't she tell you? Nah, I guess it slipped her mind, Naruto said, dropping down next to Hinata. Are you always this early? You usually, Hinata answered, pushing her index fingers together. If you needed to kill time you could always just come and hang out with me. Naruto said. Hinata blushed at the prospect and wondered why the thought of casually hanging out with Naruto made her nervous. But I don't know where you all live. Or why you still in the H hotel. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys yesterday, but sensei has found us an apartment. We're going to be moving in a few days, I'm so excited. Naruto said, bouncing in his seat. I'll get to decorate my own room and everything. I've never gotten to do that before. That sounds like fun, Hinata said, happy for her teammate. Being a Hokage, her room had to meet their Spartan ideas of decoration, meaning she basically only had a bed, a chest of drawers, and a desk in a beige-colored room. The conversation continued in this vein for some time before Shino and Kurenai finally entered the clearing the two genin were in. "Mornin' guys." Naruto shouted, jumping to his feet. "Gee, good morning," Hinata said, getting to her feet as well. Shino merely inclined his head in greetings. "Okay you three, we have a lot of work today, so get started on your stretching and warm-up exercises," Kurenai said, clapping her hands together. And so they did. After finishing their laps, the three genin gathered in front of Kurenai, who was standing under a tall tree. "Now who can tell me what is the most important skill for a shinobi to have?" "Determination," Naruto shouted. "Important but not the most important. Chakra control," Shino said, adjusting his glasses. "I assume that is the answer you seek due to the fact that you wish to eventually teach us ninjutsu. Correct, Shino?" "Yes, chakra control is the most essential skill in a shinobi's arsenal. Whether you specialize in taijutsu, ninjutsu or kenjutsu, you can always get better by having better control. Now today I'm going to teach you three an important chakra control technique that act as a stepping stone to more advanced techniques. Now pay attention." But that Kurenai turned around and walked straight up the tree to a good-sized branch and stood on it. "I know Hinata can use this technique, I saw you use it in the True Genin test. Do the two of you have any experience with this?" Kurenai asked Naruto and Shino. "I can do it, no problem," Naruto said, placing his hands behind his head. "Really, Uzumaki? Due to your large reserves, I thought you would have had the most problems with this," Kurenai asked, surprised. "Yeah, well, that's what sensei thought too. So when he taught me tree walking, he told me I couldn't eat ramen until I could do it easily. It was the longest week of my life," Naruto answered, looking depressed. "I have been practicing this technique for some time, ever since my father showed it to me. I unfortunately have not made as much progress in it as I would have liked," Shino said, sounding disappointed with himself. Well, disappointed for an Aburam, which meant he spoke in a slightly lower voice. It's okay, Shino. We Hyuga require very precise C control for the G gentle fist, so we are taught C control very early," Hinata said, trying to make Shino feel better. "Yeah, I'm sure you'll get it down in no time," Naruto added. "That is it is that means that I am holding our team back due to my own incompetence. I will master this ability quickly and catch up to you," Shino declared. "Good, and to hasten that process you two will help him. I want you two to work with Shino, training him until I find his tree walking satisfactory. However, you two will be doing something extra. Hinata, I want you to spend as much time on the tree as possible to help deepen your chakra reserves. Uzumaki, do you know the leaf exercise?" Kurenai asked Naruto. "Is that the one where you keep a leaf attached to your forehead with chakra?" "Yes, I want you to practice that exercise while tree walking. Any questions?" "Kurenai-sensei, I do not wish to hold back Naruto and Hinata. Please continue instructing them. I can work alone until I master this technique," Shino said, trying to not hold back his teammates. "No, I want you three to be on the same level proceeding forward with your training. Plus I don't think these two mind. Do you?" Kurenai asked Naruto and Hinata. "Heck no, Shino, we'll get you walking up trees like a pro in no time," Naruto shouted, pumping his fist. We're a team, Shino, we're here to help," Hinata responded more quietly than Naruto, which really wasn't saying much. "I do not believe that I am going to be able to talk you three out of this, am I?" Shino said, giving up. Kurenai looked at Hinata, then Naruto, before bringing her attention back to Shino. "Nope. Shino, I see can use my Byakugan to help you regulate your CH chakra," Hinata said, trying to be helpful. "Thank you, Hinata, that will be most helpful," Shino said, adjusting his glasses and turning towards the tree that Naruto had already walked up. He made it to the foliage and picked a single leaf and placed it on his forehead. "I'll help if I can, but I don't think I can be as useful as Hinata here. Her eyes are more precise than my sensory abilities," Naruto said, turning his attention towards the leaf on his head. I do believe Naruto is correct on this subject. I leave myself in your care, Hinata." This minor praise from both Shino and Naruto flustered Hinata slightly, but was saved when Kurenai interjected, "Hinata, I want you on that tree." Hinata walked up the tree a few steps before activating her Byakugan. "Whenever you're ready, Shino." Shino took a few steps back and ran up the tree. He made it about halfway to where Naruto was before his control slipped and he jumped back down. "Oh okay, Shino, you need to use some more chakra next time," Hinata said. Shino nodded, taking up position again. Gee, crash. An orange blur shot down the tree, narrowly missing Hinata and crashed into the ground at Shino's feet. When the dust settled, Naruto was sprawled out on the ground, a dazed look in his eyes. "Naruto." Hinata shouted, jumping down and kneeling next to the hurt boy. Said boy immediately jumped back to his feet and dusted himself off. He looked around and saw his teammates surrounding him, expressions of concern on their faces. "I'm fine, I just lost control a bit, besides sensei always says I have a hard head, so don't worry ow." Naruto was interrupted when Hinata inspected Naruto's head for any damage. "Here, I have an ointment that'll help," Hinata said, producing a jar from the depths of her bulky jacket. Naruto was about to tell her that he healed quickly and didn't need it, but when he saw her eyes filled with determination and joy at being helpful, Naruto just couldn't say no to her. "Thanks, Hinata." At the end of the training session, Shino had made a great deal of progress. A Byakugan was really helpful in these types of situations. He was now able to make his way up most of the tree. And Naruto only fell 5 more times. He stopped standing so high up in the tree after his 3rd fall. At the end of the training session, Shino got better, Naruto got bruises, and Hinata got chakra exhaustion. A rather eventful morning all in all. "That cat is a monster." The tranquil evening in Konoha was shattered by Naruto's shout. His face was covered in small cuts and abrasions, mementos of his team's last mission of the day. Hinata had not come out of the mission any better, and her face was as scratched up as Naruto's. Shino managed to avoid the worst of it due to his trench coat. "I find it difficult to believe that a common house cat would be capable of such feats of skill and dexterity," Shino said depressingly. Dabbing the last of Hinata's ointment on his face. That cat really didn't want to be captured," Hinata added, pressing an ice pack to her forehead. "Getting dive bombed by a furry demon could really leave a lump." "Did you guys get the cat mission?" a boy asked, walking up to the group. He was wearing a fur coat, had 2 red fang-like marks on his cheeks, and a small white dog sleeping on his head. "Indeed we did, Kiba. It proved far more daunting a task than I had originally anticipated." "Do you have previous experience with the aforementioned mission too?" Shino asked the now identified Kiba. "What? Oh, you want to know if I did this mission before?" "That is what I said, yes." Shino said, a bit perplexed. "Yeah, my team took the mission yesterday. That cat is living proof that dogs are better pets than cats." Kiba answered, petting the dog that was sitting on his head. "You guys know each other?" Naruto asked, not recognizing the stranger. "Why, yeah, this is Kiba and Yuzuka. We were in the same class in the academy." Hinata answered. "Nice to meet you, names, Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto said, holding out his hand. "Same to you," Kiba said, shaking Naruto's hand. "Wait," Kiba said as he started sniffing Naruto, who looked questioningly at Shino and Hinata, who could only shrug. "Are you that guy who set the trap outside my clan compound, the one with the water balloon filled with bacon flavoring?" Kiba finally asked. "Why do you ask?" Naruto said, starting to get a bit nervous. He was hoping he wouldn't have to make a quick exit. "Dude, that was hilarious. I don't think I've ever seen one of my clansmen run away from a dog so fast. Man, I cried from laughter when I saw that." "Up top," Kiba said, holding his hand up for a high five. "It's good to meet someone who has an appreciation for the art," Naruto said, gleefully giving Kiba a high five. What are why you doing here, Kiba?" Hinata questioned, adjusting the ice pack she was holding to her forehead. "Hiding, mostly," Kiba answered. "From who?" Naruto asked. "I'm on SASUke," a sickly sweet voice came from around the corner. Kiba released a heavy sigh as he jammed his hands deep into his pockets. "Them?" Genin walked around the same corner that the voice had come from. The first was female, sporting a red dress with black shorts, but the most striking feature was her long bubblegum pink hair. She was lively and was looking at her companion in a way that only schoolgirls in love could pull off. Said companion was almost night and day different from her. He had raven black hair, which vaguely resembled the behind of a duck, strangely enough, wearing a blue shirt and beige pants. Where his companion was being tooth-rottingly sweet, he was doing his best to ignore her and had a palpable aura of gloom surrounding him. "Kiba!" the female shouted, her facade of pleasantness dropping away instantly. "What are you doing? Kakashi-sensei gave us an assignment and you're holding sauce cup," she continued shouting as she stormed up the group of 4. "Oh, Hinata, how are you?" the girl asked, switching back to sweet fairy mode. "Be good," Hinata answered. She wouldn't really consider Sakura as a friend, she was too loud and confrontational, but they were among the top students of Tsunade's meta classes and would sometimes be given additional assignments. "Come on, you dumb mutt, we need to finish this assignment up quickly so I can spend more free time with Sasuke," Sakura said, bringing her attention back to Kiba. "Mud isn't really an insult, just so you know. Also, Sasuke already left," Kiba sighed. "What?" Sakura looked around, and sure enough, the raven-haired youth was nowhere to be seen. "Sasuke. Wait for me," Sakura shouted, rushing down the street. "Shino, can you switch teams with me?" "No." Shino deadpanned in the Aburam monotone. "Naruto," Kiba pleaded. No, 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 Naruto said shaking his head. Kiba turned to Hinata and was about to ask when instead he just shook his head. No, that would just be too mean. Good luck Kiba, Hinata said gently feeling sorry for the poor Inuzuka. Thanks Hinata, see you Shino, Naruto. Kiba waved goodbye as he trudged down the road after his two teammates. What was her deal? Naruto asked. Sakura. Hinata said looking over to her teammate. She is a member of the Sasuke fan club that was formed in our academy class. Shino answered. Sasuke fan club? Naruto was becoming more and more confused by the moment. Sasuke was the R rookie of the Y year in our C class. He got T top grades in all subjects and the G girls in our C class just G gravitated to him. Hinata said. All the girls? Naruto asked. Not Hinata, she was smart enough not to waste her time on something so trivial. Shino interjected. Naruto released the breath he didn't know he was holding or why he was holding it. Although the reason why the females of our class fawned over him is still a matter of confusion for me. He is not what many would consider to be enjoyable company, nor is he overly social. It is most baffling. Shino, are you jealous? Naruto chided his teammate. Shino just stared at Naruto for an uncomfortable minute. Well anyway, I'm really glad I got you guys for my team. The rest of your class seems crazy. Naruto said, wrapping an arm around the shoulders of both Shino and Hinata, causing the latter to blush. Indeed, I am glad that Hinata is the female that was assigned to our team as she was the smartest girl in our class. Shino said, shrugging off Naruto's arm. That's not true. Sakura got better G grades than I did, Hinata said, pushing her index fingers together. While it is true that Sakura is more educated than you, I stand by my previous assertion that you are smarter than her. Yay Hinata, you are really smart. Besides, tests don't mean anything anyway. Naruto said. Just to inform you Naruto, I was ranked second in my class as far as academia is concerned. Shino told Naruto while adjusting his glasses. Well I didn't mean that wasn't let's go get some ramen. Naruto shouts, grabbing his teammates and dragging them down the street. Hinata picked the location we ate at yesterday and you picked the restaurant the day before. I do believe it is now my turn to choose an eatery. Shino said, stopping Naruto. That sounds fair, Hinata said. Naruto looked pleadingly between Hinata and Shino for a moment, but when it didn't seem they would relent he seemed to deflate. So I know, you're right. Where to Shino? Naruto asked, regaining his cheerfulness. My favorite confectionery is just down the street here. Come on. Shino said, excitement breaking through his Aburum shell as he quickened his pace, leaving Naruto and Hinata standing there. Handy? Hinata said, looking questioningly at Naruto. Jinchuriki just shrugged and followed his teammate down the street. Hinata stood on top of the water looking worriedly at a place on the lake where bubbles were rising to the top. She was about to start panicking when Naruto broke through the surface, gasping for breath. Almost had it that time Hina. I'm going to try again, just a second. It had been almost a week since Kurenai had started her team on tree walking, and Shino, with the help of Naruto and Hinata, had quickly mastered the technique, and as such Kurenai then had them move right on to the next level of chakra control, water walking. Hinata had mastered this new ability the quickest of the team. Shino was not too far behind, but Naruto was having difficulty and as such had asked Hinata for help after team training. Which led the two Genin to where they were now, Naruto soaking wet and floating in a lake, and Hinata standing on top of the water, trying her best to help her teammate. Hey alright Naruto here, Hinata said, extending her hand towards her soaked teammate. Thanks Hina, Naruto grabbed Hinata's hand and started applying chakra to his feet. Slowly Naruto rose to the surface and concentrated on the chakra in his feet, trying to maintain his buoyancy. Hinata had wanted to practice in shallower water, but Naruto, being Naruto, wanted to go over deeper water to make it more exciting. Okay, I'm good, you can let go. Naruto said, keeping his eyes closed in concentration. Oh okay, I'm letting go, Hinata said, backing away slowly. The full minute passed with Naruto standing perfectly still and above water. I did it. Naruto shouted. Good job Naruto, Hinata said happily, glad that Naruto had finally made it past this hurdle. Naruto took a tentative step, then another and another, still remaining above water. Naruto whooped for joy and jumped, landing back on the water, still feeling like solid ground. He ran up to Hinata and enveloped her in a bear hug. Thanks Hina. It's all thanks to you. Naruto shouted, spinning the tomato red girl around before setting her back down. Why you're welcome, Hinata stuttered out, having trouble keeping her concentration on staying above the water. Let's go to Ichiraku, my treat, Naruto said, turning towards the shore. Look out. Naruto shouted, leaping out of the way of a whirling shuriken aimed at his head. However, the surprise attack broke Naruto's concentration, so that where he should have landed back on the surface of the water, he instead fell through it. Hinata, when she heard Naruto shouting, activated her Byakugan and scanned the area. She immediately found the attacker. She recognized who he was but was confused as to why he was attacking Naruto. Said blonde resurfaced and looked quite angry. What the hell sensei? Naruto shouted. Ziren just smirked and held up a brown paper bag with Ichiraku's logo on it. Stop complaining, I brought dinner. Naruto, grumbling the entire time, hauled himself out of the water and onto the shore, quickly followed by Hinata. Was the shuriken really necessary? Naruto asked angrily. Naruto, you're going to have to deal with a lot worse than just one shuriken while water walking. Think of it as a surprise combat lesson, Ziren said cheerily. All good to see you again, Hinata, Ziren said, ruffling the girl's hair. Gee, greetings, Hinata said nervously. The last time she had seen Naruto-sensei, he was yelling at the two of them for their pranking spree. You don't need to be nervous, I don't yell all that often, Ziren said, trying to ease the nervous girl. Yeah, shouting sensei is easy to deal with. It's when he gets quiet and contemplative that you really need to start running, Naruto supplied, trying to wring the water out of his clothes. Here, Ziren said, throwing a second bag at Naruto. I brought you some dry clothes to change into. Oh, thanks sensei, Naruto said, starting to take his shirt off. Dhwack. Ow, sensei, what was that for? Naruto said, holding his head and looking at Ziren, who just pointed to the side with his thumb. Naruto followed the older man's finger to a furiously blushing Hinata, who he was just about to strip in front of. With a blush to match his teammate, Naruto dashed off into the woods looking for some privacy. I swear that boy sometimes, Ziren grumbled, holding the bridge of his nose. He looked over to see a stupefied Hinata still staring at the place where Naruto used to be standing. For someone who can see through solid objects, she sure is innocent. Ziren thought to himself. I wanted to thank you for helping Naruto with his water walking, Ziren said, bringing the girl out of her trance. It's not a pee problem. Knowing Naruto, yes it is, Ziren said, siding on a rock and motioning Hinata to sit on the log opposite him. He then took 3 sealed bowls of ramen from the Ichiraku bag and handed one to Hinata. Why you didn't have to get me some, Hinata said while holding the bowl. Stop with the formalities and eat. I know how exhausting it is trying to teach Naruto. As if to prove Ziren's words, Hinata's stomach growled loudly. That ramen smells delicious, Naruto said, walking out of the woods in dry clothes and sat down next to Hinata. So how did your training go, Naruto? Ziren asked, opening his ramen. mph miles per hour mpmh, Naruto mumbled around his mouthful of noodles. What have I said about talking with your mouth full? Ziren asked, raising his hand. Naruto frantically shook his head and quickly swallowed. Sorry, but anyway, Hinata has been a real help. I think I've finally figured it out. Training with her is actually a lot of fun. Naruto beamed, causing Hinata to turn slightly red. Why can't you ever be this excited when I train you? Naruto thought to himself while staring at Hinata, she's cuter than you. Naruto said, completely oblivious to the fact that Hinata's ears were now red too. Ziren not only looked at Naruto, but also extended his senses, but he couldn't feel anything that would suggest Naruto was trying to flirt with Hinata. In fact, as far as Ziren could tell, Naruto would have given the same answer whether Hinata was there or not. Ziren realized that if half of what he heard about the Hokage clan were true, then Hinata was not used to being complimented. This was going to be fun. Really? Cute. You know, good looks does not a good teacher make. Yeah, well, she also nicer than you too. So? You wouldn't have gotten as good as you are now if I went easy on you. Her Byakugan is more precise than our senses. Her Byakugan is more precise too than your senses. She's really patient. I'm a patient too, you just enjoy testing the limits of my patience. She's really smart, Shino said. She was one of the smartest girls in their academy class. With every compliment Naruto unknowing gave the girl sitting next to him, Hinata became redder and redder, to the point that she was releasing more steam than their 3 bowls of hot ramen combined. It was only thanks to a lifetime of trade negotiations that Ziren was able to keep a straight face and didn't burst out laughing. If Naruto ever gained some self-awareness, he would become an unstoppable ladies' man. Ziren was often frustrated by Naruto's obliviousness, but maybe it was a good thing Naruto was as dense as a collapsing star. Dealing with a trail of heartbroken maidens was not something he could deal with. But it was probably time to give the poor girl a break. She looked like she was about to faint. Okay, I submit, in the face of Hinata's overwhelming awesomeness. Ziren finally conceded to Naruto. Said boy, sporting a smug grin on his face as he turned towards his teammate. Hear that, Hinata? Even sensei thinks you're awesome. That TTTSGG great, Hinata stuttered out with great difficulty. Hinata, are you okay? You look really red. Naruto said, worriedly reaching out to touch her. Leave her alone, I'm sure Tucci just left a chili pepper in her ramen or something. Ziren said, giving the poor girl's heart a break. Anyway, it's getting late and Hinata should probably get home. Hinata then noticed that it was getting dark and Ziren was right, she should get home before curfew. Okay, I'll walk you home, Hinata. Naruto said, standing up and holding out his hand towards his teammate. Thanks, and Naruto. Hinata said, accepting Naruto's hand and standing up. I'll see you at the hotel, sensei. I'll probably stop by Ichiraku on the way back though, 1 bowl of ramen just isn't enough. Naruto told Ziren as he and Hinata turned to leave. No, you're not. Ziren said, stopping Naruto in his tracks. What? Naruto asked. Due to you working so hard on your chakra control, you've been slacking on your swordsmanship practice. What? No, I haven't, Naruto tried defending himself. However, his arguments died in his throat under the glare of his sensei. Yes, you have, and since that is unacceptable, I have come up with a brand new training regimen for you. Ziren said with the creepiest happy grin on his face. Naruto shuddered, looking quite scared. So walk Hinata home like a gentleman, then walk straight back here and we'll get started. And if you dawdle, I have a second training regimen that I'm even more excited about. Yes, sir. Naruto shouted, saluting before turning around and stiffly marched away. Hinata bowed and thanked Ziren for the food before hurrying after Naruto. She managed to catch up with her teammate with no trouble, but he was still walking stiffly. Are his training exercises really that bad? Hinata asked. Naruto looked back, checking to make sure that Ziren was out of earshot. You know when I said you were nicer than sensei? Hinata nodded. That isn't the compliment it sounds like. Sensei is a brutal teacher. It's especially bad when he gets excited over a new training regimen. Naruto groaned. Hinata just giggled. What's so funny? It's just that you seem kinda excited about it. Hinata said, pushing her index fingers together and peering at Naruto. Well, that's I mean, he doesn't pull punches, but his training really works, so yay, this new training will make me stronger. Naruto admitted. Hinata just smiled at him, causing Naruto to blush. A bizarre thing happened the next morning. Naruto and Hinata were the first ones to show up for the team meeting. Well, rare that was in it of itself, that was not the bizarre happening. No, that happened when Hinata asked Naruto about his training from the night before. I got a little bruised up, but that's nothing new. I'm trying a new recipe for ointment that's good for bruises. Please use some. Hinata said, pulling out the medicine. Naruto wanted to tell her he didn't need it, but Hinata looked so proud holding the jar out to him, he just couldn't deny her. Oh okay, Naruto said, rolling up his sleeve and holding his arm out to Hinata. Said girl took Naruto's arm and examined them for bruising. What she found confused her. He had bruises to be sure, but they were the yellow coloring one would normally see after a week of healing, not the angry purple of only a day old. I'm a fast healer, so bruises never really bothered me. Naruto said, seeing Hinata's confusion. Oh, was all Hinata could say. Even if someone healed faster than the average human, the progress Naruto made with only a night's sleep was impossible would be the word Hinata would use if she hadn't seen proof herself. However, she would not be able to dwell on this new revelation for long. Good morning, Shino said, walking into the clearing. Morning, Naruto said, rolling his sleeve back down. Good morning, Shino, Hinata said, putting her ointment away. How was yesterday's water walking training? Shino asked, taking a seat next to his two teammates. I think I've finally got the trick to it, Naruto bragged. That's good to hear, Uzumaki. I'm sure you wouldn't mind demonstrating for me. Kurenai said, walking into the clearing. No prob, Kurenai-sensei. Naruto shouted, jumping up to his feet and racing towards the river. Uzumaki, wait for the rest of your team, Kurenai shouted after him. I would have thought it would take you a day or two more to master it. Kurenai said while Naruto was busy doing cartwheels on the water. Did you practice after I left? Hinata asked, confused because Naruto wasn't that proficient with the technique last night when she left. Yeah, sensei decided that it would be a good idea to practice sword fighting while water walking. Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head. What is to be the lesson plan moving forward, Kurenai-sensei? I ask because you said that you expected Naruto to take another couple of days to finish mastering this technique. Shino asked. I don't have anything else planned for today, Kurenai said, thinking about what to do for team training. Well, downtime is important for growth as well as active training. Here's what we're going to do today, team. We'll take a couple of D-rank missions and then I'll give you guys the rest of the day off. Cool. Let's get going. Naruto shouted, jumping off of the river and heading back towards the village proper. Teammate made it halfway to the Hokage's tower when they encountered a smug-looking Kiba. Yo Kiba. Naruto shouted, waving his arm in the air. Hey guys, what's up? Kiba asked as his dog Akamaru popped his head out of the Inuzuka's jacket. We are on our way to perform D-rank missions. I have risen above such petty activities. That's right, my team has been assigned a C-rank mission. I know you're all jealous. Kiba said, sounding as smug as possible and striking a pose. Really? Aw man, that's so cool. I want a C-rank mission. Naruto pouted. Kurenai was concerned. From what she understood, Team 7 had the worst teamwork among the rookie teams. Her students' teamwork was above average for how long they were together, still they weren't ready for C-rank. Kurenai-sensei, can we get a C-rank mission? Naruto asked, giving the Jonin his best puppy dog eyes. I told you, Uzumaki, that we'll start taking C-rank missions when I decide you're ready. Kurenai said, shooting Naruto down. Well, you guys have fun with your D-rank missions. I'm going to prepare for my C-rank mission. Kiba gloated. As he strutted down the street. It's okay, Naruto, I'm sure we'll get a C-rank as soon. Hinata said, trying to cheer up Naruto. "You're right, Hinata," Naruto said, immediately regaining his brightness. "Onwards to our dear Anks," Naruto yelled as he ran down the street. Kurenai stretched, relaxing into the faux leather of the bar booth she was sitting in. She took another sip of her drink while she waited for her friend Anko to show up. She should release her team early more often. Kurenai closed her eyes as she tried to release some of the stress that comes with having to deal with a new Genin team. "Kurenai Yuhi?" Kurenai started at the sound of her name. Opening her eyes, she saw a man standing by her booth. The fact that he had a sword strapped to his back precluded him from being the waiter. She immediately sat up straighter and got a better look at him. He wasn't particularly tall and was dressed in head to foot in a soft black material, the kind that allowed for absolute freedom of movement as well as muffling any sounds he made while moving. He wore a flak jacket denoting him as at least a chunin, but the way he carried himself led Kurenai to believe that he was more likely a jonin. Black eyes peered from underneath mid-length black hair, analyzing her, measuring her. Two things stood out from the rest. The first was his sword. This being a shinobi bar, it didn't require that all weapons be checked at the door. Removing all hidden weapons on a ninja was not a quick process. The second thing standing out was the fact that he left his Konoha headband dangling from his belt. Even the lazy Naras showed the protector more respect than that. "Yes?" she asked hesitantly. The man smiled as he extended his hand to her. "Ziren Adair, a pleasure to finally meet you." "Ah yes, a pleasure," Kurenai said, accepting Ziren's hand. "I had hoped to speak to you sooner, but well, so many things required my attention. Yes, I had planned to meet with you eventually, but team training requires most of my time," Kurenai said while Ziren slid into the seat opposite her. "Indeed," Ziren said, analyzing her. "And what did you want to talk about?" Kurenai asked cautiously as the waiter approached to take Ziren's order. "About Naruto. What else?" Ziren said simply. "What about him?" Kurenai asked. "I'll not beat around the bush, Ms. Yuhi. Naruto may not be the sharpest kunai in the weapons shop, but he is more perceptive than many would give him credit for," Ziren said. "Such as noticing that you treated him one way the first day and a different way on every other day. He is not, however, aware of what the Hokage told you the night in between those 2 days." Ziren finished, daring Kurenai to break eye contact with him. "I treat him with respect and dignity the same way I treat my other 2 students. Please don't insult my intelligence and I'll extend the same courtesy to you. You don't treat Naruto the same way you treat Hinata and the Aburam boy. Naruto hasn't said anything specific, but I can hear much in the things he doesn't say." "And what doesn't he say?" Instead of an answer, Ziren just steepled his fingers and stared at Kurenai, observing her. However, the Jinjutsu mistress wasn't one to back down, and she wasn't going to lose this game of verbal chicken, but her patience and determination wavered as Ziren's eyes drilled into her, knocking aside any defenses she had, and seemed to look into her very soul. And if what she had read in the Hokage's reports about his sensory capabilities were true, he could very well be. Until finally she cracked, "My reasons are my own, and I don't have to justify myself to you. The Lord Third believed that I would be the best to train him, and I will do my best to meet his expectations. If you have a problem, you can take it up with the Hokage," Kurenai said defensively and far more loudly than she had intended to, causing something of a small scene. But it was the evening and people were tired and they quickly turned back to their drinks. Ziren, who had remained quiet for a time, finally spoke up. "I know how hard it is to lose a family member, but being mad at Naruto won't make you feel any better." "Ah, thank you, my good sir," Ziren said, accepting his drink from the waiter and leaving Kurenai speechless, but for only a moment. "What do you mean by that?" Kurenai seethed through her teeth, gripping the table hard enough to turn her knuckles white. "I know that you lost your parents in the Kyuubi attack," Ziren said, simply taking a sip of his drink. "How do you know that?" Kurenai asked. "I'm to be assigned to the intelligence division after my probation is over. Your parents' death is a matter of public record. If I couldn't discover that much, I wouldn't be very good at what I do. And invading people's privacy is what you do." Kurenai was on the verge of attacking him over that. Even after 12 years, Kurenai still missed her parents dearly. "If doing so protects my adoptive son, then yes." Kurenai opened her mouth to retort, yell, curse, or just say something, but any words she had died in her mouth as she looked into Ziren's eyes and found something she wasn't expecting: sympathy. She looked away and tried to come up with something to say, something to add, but she just didn't know what that something could be. She knew that Naruto wasn't responsible, that he was barely born when the Kyuubi raised half the village. But hearing that she was training the container of that monster opened a wound she thought long healed. "I know that Uzumaki, that Naruto isn't the Kyuubi, but when I look at him I just see it. I see a demon. Not only can I sense the chakra in Naruto, but also the chakra of the Kyuubi, and sometimes I also have difficulty differentiating the two. I feel the Kyuubi's anger, its hatred, and its desire for vengeance right next to Naruto's own emotions, his optimism, and his hopefulness. There have even been days when seeing the two of them superimposed on one another has gotten to me. But one thing always helps me through the tough parts, and that is Naruto himself. Yeah, he's not too bright and can pull one too many pranks, and he is the container for the greatest disaster to befall the Hidden Leaf, but he is always doing things for others, always going out of his way to help people no matter what. And his brightness always shines through, even through the miasma of the Kyuubi's hatred. Kurenai sat in silence absorbing Ziren's words. However, her contemplation was quickly interrupted when a woman with purple hair and a more adventurous wardrobe took the seat right next to Kurenai. "Ooh, Kurenai, who's this? Cheating on Asuma, are we?" The woman said, leaning into Kurenai and waggling her eyebrows. "No, Anko, this is Ziren Adair, his apprentice has been assigned to my Genin team," Kurenai sighed, stopping Anko's imagination short. "Good to meet you, Miss Anko," Ziren said, extending his hand. "Just call me Anko, that miss doesn't sit right with me," Anko said, taking his hand and shaking it rather forcefully. "You guys sit tight, I'm going to get some drinks," Anko said, standing back up and heading towards the bar. "I won't take too much more of your time, Kurenai," Ziren said, finishing his drink and pulling out some money to pay for it. "I'm not asking you to like him. Heaven knows there are days when even I can't, but just remember this when you look at Naruto and see a demon. The day the Kyuubi attacked, Naruto lost his home, his father, his mother, his privacy, and his freedom. Yes, he is different from the rest of us, but he's still only a boy, a child looking up to his elders to guide him and protect him.